Chapter 496. Boss, what's going on? Vividly, that lion-nosed second also realized something was wrong. The big guy with the scattered hair revealed a stern expression. Encountering a sudden attack at this dispersed praying mountain was definitely out of their expectations. Earlier, they were worried that they would encounter an attack at the orderly mountain prefecture. Unexpectedly, they encountered an accident at the dispersed praying mountain, a place they had assumed to be absolutely safe. Third, what do you think of that spiritual beast? The big guy with the scattered hair asked in a low voice. Apparently, that skinny man had not yet recovered from the shock as he said with a stutter, "Boss, in my panic, I could not see through its strength. I only know that it is powerful." Before it, Fourth did not have the slightest room to resist. He was directly taken away by it. There was a trace of eeriness in the eyes of the big guy with the scattered hair. Apparently, he was considering something. After a moment, he had an idea. He turned around and said to that lion-nosed guy, "Second, third, most likely, this spiritual beast is targeting us." According to Third's description, that spiritual beast should possess the strength of the profound void martial stage. If that's the case, even with the three of us combined, we cannot defeat a spiritual beast at the profound void martial stage. This way, it seems we are not the first ones to arrive here. That lion-nosed guy also appeared to shrink back. To them, the reputation of the profound void martial stage was too powerful. It was not something they could afford to offend. Even the big guy with the scattered hair, the boss of the Creek Mountain Six Devils, was only at the transformation void martial stage. Only death awaited them if they fought against one at the profound void martial stage. "Boss, what should we do?" These two stopped their gaze on the face of the big guy with the scattered hair. Apparently, they were waiting for him to make a decision. The big guy with the scattered hair said in a low voice, "If that beast is already targeting us, it will not be easy to escape. It will also be difficult to move forward. Our current situation is a dilemma that we can neither advance nor retreat. What do you think we should do?" "We will listen to Boss." At this time, those two guys were also out of their wit. Apparently, they had also lost their composure. The big guy with the scattered hair nodded and did not dawdle. Instead, he said, "For sure, only death awaits us if we retreat. If they are targeting us, they will not let us go. And if we move forward, we will also die. If we may die regardless of whether we advance or retreat, we cannot choose the cowardly way out. Ever since we entered the path of cultivation, we have been mentally prepared to face death at any time. But I firmly believe that even if I die, it must be worth it. Therefore, I have decided that we will continue to advance and split into three groups. Even if that spirit beast is very powerful, the three of us will each take a path and gamble on our luck. If one or two of us can make it out alive and enter the human kingdom, the others won't have died in vain." The lion-nosed man and the skinny third brother looked at each other. Clearly, they agreed with their big brother's decision. They both nodded and said, "Okay, big brother, it's decided." The burly man with long hair stretched out his hand and heavily overlapped the other two's palms. "Remember, try your best to survive and meet in the human nations. Set off." The three of them were rogue cultivators, so they were aware of the dangers of life and death. Moreover, they were mentally prepared. Regardless of whether they left or stayed, if the spirit beast was deliberately looking for trouble with them, they would not be able to hold on for long even if they did not leave. The three silhouettes quickly approached the human nations. At the same time, they turned into streaks of light and used different methods to quickly escape. The body of the burly man with long hair was covered by an earthen yellow streak of light, and he disappeared from the ground. He used a long earth escape talisman, which was much more useful than ordinary earth elemental talismans. With this escape, he could directly escape a few hundred miles away. With this escape, he firmly believed that he could completely escape the pursuit of the profound void stage spirit beast. He knew that if that spirit beast was a flying-type spirit beast, It would not be good at underground movement. As long as he escaped a few hundred miles away, he could use the Earth elemental technique to escape from the pursuit. Of course, he felt somewhat guilty in his heart. Just now, his arrangement sounded like the three brothers had the same chance of escaping, but in reality, he knew very well that if the three of them fled separately, it was actually equivalent to the other two brothers covering his escape, because the other two brothers did not have any escape talismans on them. Second brother, third brother, I hope you are all lucky. A trace of guilt flashed in the heart of the burly man with long hair, and he did not think about it anymore. Although the Creek Mountain Six Devils had been together for a few decades and their relationship had always been very deep, at this critical moment of life and death, it was better for one of them to escape than to be completely annihilated. Even if the burly man with long hair felt guilty, he would definitely not regret his choice. Somewhere in the dispersed praying mountain, Qin Wushuang stood there calmly. He fixed his gaze to the front with determination and concentration. Among his cold eyes, there was a wave of rich coldness. Master, we already took out 3 guys. The other 3 guys have already escaped. Precious Pig and Mystical Horse have already gone to welcome them. There's another guy who is using the Earth Escape Talisman to escape forward. This was the information brought by Hissing Sky Phoenix. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, "Let's test Mole's skills for the one that escaped." "Okay, Master, I will go scout ahead and see if there are any other small fries approaching." Qin Wushuang nodded. "If it's small fries, don't let them get close. If there are many of them, let Precious Pig and Mystical Horse take care of them together." With 3 spiritual beasts at the profound void martial stage and Qin Wushuang overseeing the rear, it could be said that the situation was extremely stable. These so-called Creek Mountain Six Devils were only a warm-up. Qin Wushuang knew that the best part was yet to come. Of course, the power of these 6 people was not weak. Or else, they would not have arrived at this dispersed praying mountain the earliest. At this moment, Qin Wushuang's heart was as calm as water. There was not a trace of ripples. He only had one thought. He could only retreat and not advance. Those who retreated would not be killed. Those who tried to cross the border would not be spared. Master! After about an hour, a burst of yellow light emerged from the ground. Mole also crawled out from the ground and presented a human head with disheveled hair. "A guy broke into my territory and I bit off his head effortlessly. Please check it." Qin Wushuang glanced at it and indeed, it was the head of that guy with the disheveled hair. He did not look any longer and said lightly, "Good job. Take care of the body and continue to defend your post." Hearing his master's praise, Sky-Pilfered Mole felt extremely proud as he nodded. "Okay. Don't worry, Master, I will not let go of any fish that escapes the net." Qin Wushuang nodded and did not speak anymore. Currently, a few dozen freelance martial artists from the Xian Yuan Mound had gathered at the foot of the Monkey King Mountain. These people were in groups of 3 to 5, and not one of them was alone. Apparently, none of these freelance martial artists from the Xian Yuan Mound were idiot. They knew that even if they were humans, this trip would not be a relaxing vacation. It would be impossible for them to win if they went alone. Thus, these people had come in groups of 3 to 5. Unexpectedly, after they had entered the dispersed praying mountain, more and more people had gathered. Up to this point, a few dozen people had gathered. At least 10 groups of people had gathered. Among these people, of course, there were strong and weak people. Only, everyone did not understand why they had to stop here. When the people who came later saw that everyone had stopped here, they had a habitual thought and stopped as well. "I say, why are we stopping here?" A guy with a red headscarf tied on his head shouted. Apparently, he was getting impatient from waiting. The others all shot a glance at him. A few of the more impatient ones also started to jeer. "Yes, this is not the human countries, why are we stopping here? That's right, don't tell me someone is playing tricks and tricking us to stop here." Did they beat us to it? Who stopped here first? As soon as these words were asked, everyone looked at each other and started to expose each other. At this time, a young man dressed in a silver robe, and even his eyebrows and hair were silver, said with a cold sneer, "I stopped here first. If you guys want to go, then go ahead. I didn't ask you to stay here." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place was in an uproar. Each of them opened their eyes wide in anger. Apparently, they all felt they had been fooled. A few hot-tempered people clenched their fists and made cracking sounds as if they were looking for trouble. That silver-haired young man said with disdain, "What, are you going to make a move? Kid, don't be too arrogant. Speak, just what are you scheming?" That silver-haired young man smiled lightly. "Scheming, with just you guys? Do you think you are worthy for me to scheme against you? This young master likes to go for a ride here. What can you do about it?" Among this group of rogue cultivators, someone recognized this silver-haired young man and shouted, "This person is Silver-Crowned Snake Ing Long, everyone be careful." The smile on the silver-haired young man's face became even more eerie. "Be careful?" The silver-haired young man laughed eerily. "Being careful now seems to be a little too slow, right? Look at your feet." When these rogue cultivators saw his sinister smile and heard his warning, they all felt their hair stand on end. They looked down and saw that the grass and trees under their feet had all withered and were emitting green smoke. Then, someone screamed and the soles of his feet began to make ear-piercing chee-chee sounds. They were actually rotting at a visible speed. "What's going on? Ah, there's poison. It's a corrosive poison." These rogue cultivators all cried out. Some of them reacted quickly and had already recovered. They pointed at Ing Long and cursed, "Silver-Crowned Snake, hurry up and hand over the antidote. Everyone, let's kill him together. Yes, even if we die, we can't let him get away with it." The crowd that was filled with righteous indignation suddenly boiled up. Among the boiling curses, there were screams of agony from time to time. One after another, the poison broke out very quickly. Around Silver-Crowned Snake Ing Long's body, there were bursts of green smoke. In this green smoke, it completely faded and disappeared without a trace. This Ing Long was actually an expert in using poison. A silver light flashed in the air, and Ing Long's body had already flown up into the sky along with the green smoke. He left behind a sneer and let out 3 short whistles from his mouth, as if he was calling for his companions. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 497. Following Ing Long's short whistle, another 2 figures scuttled out from the surrounding forest. They all approached Ing Long at a fast speed. "Third, nicely done." "Yeah. Haha. That group of idiots want to seize something of the divine Tao. It's simply daydreaming. If it was so easy to get a divine treasure, there would be as many divine treasure as dogs in the Tian Xian land." Ing Long smiled lightly and did not act arrogant. Instead, he said, "Big brother, we must speed up. You see, we only stopped for half a day and so many idiots have gathered here. If we wait any longer, they will be like the carp crossing the river. Although they may not be competitive, they will cause trouble. Yes, third, you take care of these small fries. Leaving the corpses there will more or less serve as a deterrent to the people coming later. Regardless, it will delay them for some time. We will seize the opportunity first." The one that spoke was the big brother among the 3. These 3 were not blood brothers. They were only battle partners and companions that ventured into the world together. The big brother that spoke was called Kong Dai. Dressed in a yellow robe, he was the strongest among the 3 and had reached the profound void martial stage. Even an elite poison user like Ing Long had to listen to his orders. Qin Wushuang still stood at a hidden place on the slope. Inwardly, he could not help but feel somewhat confused. Almost a day and a night had passed since those Creek Mountain 6 devils had approached. Not a single person had approached them. Could it be that those freelance martial artists of the Xian Yuan Mound did not believe that rumor? It did not seem to be the case. If they did not believe it, why would the Silver Monkey King come to the Stargaze Palace to deliver the letter? And why would those freelance martial artists of the human countries flee upon hearing the news? Master, didn't you say that in these days, large groups of martial artists would cross the border? How come only 6 people have come up to this point? And they are so weak? Pure Altar Precious Pig stuck out his giant belly and asked Qin Wushuang while panting heavily. Apparently, these spiritual beasts had been sealed for too long and urgently needed to release the pressure from their hearts. They all had a perverted desire for battle. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang also felt somewhat confused. However, he did not lose his footing because of this. Inwardly, he thought, could it be that someone had already gotten wind of the death of those Creek Mountain 6 devils? On second thought, he felt that it was impossible. When they killed the Creek Mountain 6 devils, it could be said that they appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Not to mention the people who were far behind, even the Creek Mountain 6 devils themselves did not have any premonition before the incident happened. It could be said that he did it without anyone noticing. While he was pondering, the hissing sky phoenix suddenly descended with a red glow and said excitedly, "Master, someone is finally here. And it seems like there are 3 of them. All 3 of them are flying in the air. It seems like they are all tough opponents." Qin Wushuang's eyebrows twitched. Finally, a tough one? Qin Wushuang's blood began to boil. He hoped that an expert of the profound void martial stage would come this time, so that he could test the true fighting strength that he possessed now. Of course, the reason why he had such a thought was mainly because of Luo Ting and the Black Panther. That day at the Wild Flame Cliff, Qin Wushuang's hatred towards Luo Ting instantly rose to the peak. Ever since Qin Wushuang had stepped onto the path of martial arts, there were people who had tried to deal with his family. For example, the first martial saint of the West Chu, Ichenzi. For example, the old devil Jiyin. However, there had never been a moment when he hated Luo Ting to the bone. After all, Ichenzi and the old devil Jiyin both had a blood feud with Qin Wushuang. He had killed a martial saint of Ichenzi, and Qin Wushuang had killed the beloved disciple of the old devil Jiyin. After all, although they were very hateful, there was a reason for it. However, this Luo Ting obviously did not do it to avenge the 9 Palace faction, and definitely not to avenge Zhuo Tianzi. There was only one reason why he was so crazy, and that was because of Murong Su. Just because Qin Wushuang had met a few times with Murong Su, it had caused this Luo Ting to become hysterical and use such a vicious scheme to deal with Qin Wushuang. It could be said that Qin Wushuang's hatred towards Luo Ting had reached an unprecedented level. "Master, let me, precious pig, devour them." Although this pure altar precious pig was only at the profound void martial stage, he held a supreme position within the 12 zodiac sealed scrolls. Even those sealed spiritual beasts at the perfect void martial stage could not reach such a position. He could even surpass the 2 spiritual beasts at the profound void martial stage. Only, the personality of the pure altar precious pig was the same as the nature of a pig. He did not have any competitive spirit and was muddle-headed. He did not care much about these matters. The reason why the pure altar precious pig had such a high potential position was because he possessed a divine skill, devour. Among the 12 sealed scrolls, only one other spiritual beast knew this skill. And that spiritual beast was unquestionably the number 1 elite warrior in the entire sealed scrolls, Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon. The Lion Dragon was a type of dragon. The dragon had 9 sons and one of them was the Lion Dragon. This Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon possessed a mutated form of the dragon clan's innate divine skill, which was devouring. The reason why the devouring skill was tyrannical was that it could directly devour the opponent's primordial spirit and turn it into its own. In fact, this divine skill was similar to Qin Wushuang's power of deep north through different means. Only, this devouring skill was much more direct and violent than the power of deep north. The only disadvantage was that this devouring skill did not understand survival of the fittest and could not get rid of the impurities in the primordial spirit. Thus, it would take a longer time to digest and the purity would not be enough. Thus, using the devouring skill to strengthen one's own primordial spirit would be slower than the power of deep north. Despite this fact, this divine skill was already exceptional. In the world of spiritual beasts, many spiritual beasts were envious of this devouring skill. Since Pure Altar Precious Pig took the initiative to ask for battle, Qin Wushuang naturally would not dampen its spirit. He turned to ask Hissing Sky Phoenix, among the enemies, do you have any specific information? Hissing Sky Phoenix said, those 3 people have formed a very strong aura. One-horned mystical horse is already there to block them. As long as they enter one-horned mystical horse's defensive territory, it will definitely attack immediately. But from the looks of it, one-horned mystical horse might not be able to destroy them all. Then all the more you need me to take action. Pure Altar Precious Pig stuck out its big belly and its huge body shook. With every step it took, it was as if the earth would shake at any time. Qin Wushuang thought that this big formation might not be a bad thing. He nodded and said, all right, you all go together. Leave those on the ground to Mole and Jade Hair. I will cover the rear. Yes, master. Hissing Sky Phoenix circled in the air and disappeared into the clouds with a red light. Although Pure Altar Precious Pig's body was huge, it was not slow when it moved. His fat body rolled up like a hurricane, rolling away. Qin Wushuang took out the graceful spiritual bow and flashed his wings. He also flew over quickly. In front, one-horned mystical horse had already transformed into a muscular man. He was fighting with a yellow-robed man in the air. They were fighting like they were evenly matched. Behind that yellow-robed man, there was a guy in green clothes. He was peeping at the side and looked as if he could attack at any time. Hissing Sky Phoenix was not in a hurry to attack. It only sat on the side and stared at that green-robed man. At this moment, Pure Altar Precious Pig arrived and shouted, one-horned mystical horse, can you take it? Do you need me, old pig, to lend you a hand? One-horned mystical horse roared, you lazy pig, go away. Although his words were tough, the opponent one-horned mystical horse was facing was Kong Dai. He was also an elite warrior of the profound void martial stage and his cultivation was not inferior. Of course, one-horned mystical horse was shocked but Kong Dai was not much better. It could be said that the shock in Kong Dai's heart was even more intense than one-horned mystical horses. This shock did not only come from one-horned mystical horse's powerful impact. It also included the Hissing Sky Phoenix who was eyeing covetously from the side and the big spiritual beast that was rolling over like a meatball. Where did so many elite warriors of the profound void martial stage come from? Kong Dai was very suspicious. After fighting for a long time, he also knew that if the other 2 were elite warriors of the profound void martial stage, the 3 brothers would not be able to gain any advantage. They would even lose for sure. Although the 3rd brother, Ying Long, was good at using poison, but in a head-on confrontation, he still had to rely on his real skills. The method of using poison also needed the right timing to be used. Kong Dai swung his saber and a golden light burst out. Golden ripples spread out in circles. His body was like a wild goose as he retreated backward. He shouted, hold on! One-horned mystical horse shouted, what are you waiting for? Take my attack. One-horned mystical horse did not bicker with Kong Dai. The stronger the opponent, the stronger his desire to win. He did not allow Kong Dai to withdraw from the battle. Kong Dai was enraged. You lunatic, do you think I am afraid of you? The 3 of you, I believe that you are also aiming for the legendary divine item in the human countries. Everyone has the same goal, Why not turn hostility into friendship? Even if we cannot be friends, we can go our own ways and rely on our own method. It is better than fighting to the death here, right? Now that there are more and more rogue martial artists behind us, even if we fight to the end, it will only benefit those who come later. One-horned mystical horse did not know about the divine item in the human countries. He only knew that his master's order was to eliminate all those who tried to cross the border. Pure altar precious pig laughed loudly. One-horned, I think you are a bit full. I will give you another 15 minutes. If you can't settle it, I, old pig, will take action. Hissing Sky Phoenix also laughed sinisterly and let out a sharp cry. Qin Wushuang transmitted his voice. The three of you work together. At this time, don't engage in any internal strife. While they were talking, Mole suddenly came out from underground and said with joy, Boss, this is strange. The other side has a guy who actually knows how to use poison. And he is underground, preparing to set up a poison array to ambush everyone. Luckily, Jade Rabbit saw through it. It asked me to ask you, do you want to eliminate that guy or use goo poison to control him and make him master's puppet? Qin Wushuang was delighted. In such a short time, Jade Rabbit had already mastered goo poison? Tell Jade Rabbit, don't kill him. Keep him as a puppet killer. Author's note. Originally, I had planned to release 4 chapters today regardless of the monthly vote. But the situation has changed. The remaining 2 chapters will be released tomorrow. Plus the 3 chapters. Tomorrow I will release 5 chapters. Tomorrow morning I will update. Brothers, please understand. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 498. With Qin Wushuang's command, that Moon Palace Jade Hare naturally would not go against it. Sky Pilfered Mole went back and informed Moon Palace Jade Hare. Moon Palace Jade Hare immediately had an idea. He said to Sky Pilfered Mole, Mole, look at his route and use the formation to trap him. I will go close and use the goo poison. Since this person is also good at using poison, I will let him know what is called a real poison expert. Moon Palace Jade Hare indeed had its own unique way of using poison. It was precisely because it and the mole both had special skills that in the 12 sealed scrolls, although their cultivation realm was the weakest, they were still able to obtain sufficient status. Ying Long was moving stealthily underground and observing the surrounding terrain. He had already locked onto the location of the poison. In this area, it should be the battle area of Big Brother and that burly man, as well as that fat pig. I must first use poison to put it down. Ying Long calculated meticulously and was already preparing to set up the poison formation. Suddenly, he felt that his feet seemed to be pulled by something. Ying Long hurriedly turned his head back. Suddenly, he felt an intense pulling force under his feet, pulling him with great force. This pulling force made Ying Long's heart skip a beat. He immediately realized that something was wrong. He quickly circulated all the strength in his body and tried to break free from this binding force. This binding force was precisely the mole's method. This mole had set up a small earth attribute formation here. The strong earth adhesive force pulled Ying Long's feet. Ying Long's charge actually broke through this strong adhesive force. His entire body rapidly moved forward. He knew that something was wrong and did not dare to stay any longer. However, Ying Long did not think that it would have been better if he did not struggle. Once he struggled, this forward momentum just happened to send his body forward. In front, Sky Pilfered Mole had set up a strong spider web-like adhesive force net. Instantly, Ying Long's entire body was stuck. This stickiness was like a prey trapped in a spider web. No matter how Ying Long struggled, it was of no use. On the contrary, the more he struggled, the tighter it became. Sky Pilfered Mole snickered. Its sharp head drilled out from the crack in the earth vein. With a complacent smile, it sized up this prey. Jade Hair, come and take a look. This fellow is rather strange. He obviously looks very young, but he wants to have silver hair and silver eyebrows. Moon Palace Jade Rabbit also scurried out from the side and said to Mole, Mole, go control your array formation and prevent other miscellaneous fish from approaching. Leave this little fellow to me. Sky Pilfered Mole proudly glanced at Ing Long and mocked, Little friend, don't struggle. The more you struggle, the more you will suffer. Don't worry, my master said that everyone else has to die, but you can stay alive. Ing Long's heart sank. How could he not tell that there was an even more powerful being behind these two spirit beasts? There was actually a master behind them who was commanding them. This way, it seemed that this dispersed praying mountain had already been controlled by someone. They had already set up an inescapable net for them to fall into. After Mole left, Moon Palace Jade Hair snuck to Ing Long's side with a smile and said with a strange smile, Little friend, are you feeling very unconvinced? Ing Long's silver pupils shot out some cold arrogance. He turned his head away and pretended to ignore Moon Palace Jade Hair. Inwardly, he could not help but pray, if this bastard touched my body, he would be looking for death. Moon Palace Jade Hair came in front of Ing Long and patted his face twice. Hey little friend, it's your fortune that my master has taken a fancy to you. Ing Long turned around with a cold sneer. You bastard, don't you know that death is at hand? Are you interested in making a deal? A deal? Moon Palace Jade Hair blinked his eyes and said with an evil smile, What kind of deal do you want to talk to me about? If you don't want to die, you will agree to this deal. Ing Long said with confidence. Of course, Moon Palace Jade Hair knew what Ing Long meant. Yet, he pretended to be confused and said, Of course I don't want to die, I want to live well. Ing Long said coldly, Then let me go immediately. I can point out a path for you. Moon Palace Jade Hair laughed evilly. Let you go? This is a good idea, but give me a reason. Bastard, do you know what my nickname is? What? Tell me. Moon Palace Jade Hair said with a smile. My nickname is Silver-Crowned Snake. My entire body is highly poisonous. You touched me just now, and I have already imperceptibly infected your body with no less than 10 types of poisonous gas. In less than an hour, these poisonous gas will flare up. I guarantee that even if your cultivation has reached the profound void martial stage, you will still die suddenly. Ing Long said coldly. It did not seem like he was exaggerating. After he finished speaking, he stared at Moon Palace Jade Hair with cold eyes, as if he was at ease. Obviously, Ing Long felt that he had already grasped a trump card, enough to make the other party release him obediently. Who knew that Moon Palace Jade Hair did not show the fear and shock that he expected. Instead, he laughed even more happily. Poisonous gas? Let me help you count them. Your hair has that poisonous gas with a faint fragrance. That should be the flower poison refined from the devil's snare flower. Your nostrils and mouth can spurt out a kind of invisible poisonous fog. It should be refined from the silver-crowned snake, right? And your clothes, every part of your body, according to my observation, there are a total of 13 types of poisonous substances, right? Large beads of sweat flowed down from Ing Long's forehead unceasingly. His silver pupils shrank rapidly. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Moon Palace Jade Hair's words were too much of a shock to him. It simply crumbled all of his confidence and defense in an instant. The other party's words were like peeling off his entire body. Even a layer of his skin and flesh was peeled off. There were no more secrets to speak of. The unexpected blow made Ing Long dumbstruck. His mouth was wide open, almost able to stuff a fist inside. Surprised? Surprised? Seeing Ing Long's expression, Moon Palace Jade Hair had a very happy and satisfied feeling in his heart. Using the other party's most complacent method to break the other party's mentality, this kind of satisfaction and harvest was hard to describe. Seeing Ing Long's dumbstruck and petrified expression, Moon Palace Jade Hair said leisurely, I forgot to tell you. These poisons you used, I ate them as food 10 years after I was born. Not to mention touching them, even if I swallowed them in big mouthfuls, it would only have the effect of tickling. Yinglong's face was ashen. His cold and arrogant eyes no longer had a trace of brilliance. He muttered, "Just kill me. I already said that my master wants to keep you alive. Otherwise, I will definitely let you experience for free what is called a true poison expert." Speaking until here, Moon Palace Jade Hair pointed with his fingertip. A faint blue light that was like fire appeared on his fingertip. He laughed strangely and said, "This is the goo poison bestowed to me by my master. I have just started using it. But I have to admit, although the quality of these goo poisons is ordinary, compared to your poisons, it is already very impressive. Listen carefully, little friend. The true poison is colorless and tasteless. It will make people unable to guard against you. Invisibly, the poison can be planted into your primordial spirit. From the body to the spirit, it will be completely controlled. It will make you beg for death." Speaking until here, Moon Palace Jade Hair pointed with that faint blue light. It turned into a weak flowing light and rushed into Yinglong's forehead. Yinglong only felt as if his entire body was electrocuted. An ice-cold feeling instantly spread throughout his body. He knew that this was definitely not a good outcome. But no matter how he resisted and struggled, that ice-cold air directly penetrated his Naiwan palace and rushed into his dantian, directly hitting his primordial spirit. Yinglong's entire body instantly felt as if it was frozen. From his body to his soul, he felt a twitching throbbing. This feeling was simply as if he had suddenly entered hell. All the pores and skin on his body started to tremble. "Little friend, be good." This feeling only lasted for a moment. After that, it was at ease. Don't resist. Listen, I will now teach you some free poison technique. If you want to become a top-notch poison expert, you must change that special appearance of yours. You also need to make people forget your nickname. What's Silver-Crowned Snake? The more resounding the nickname, the more it proves the cowardice in your heart. A true expert is like the wind, unable to be captured. Like the air, unable to be identified. With that head of silver hair and eyebrows of yours, others can tell that you are not a kind person. When encountering a true expert, others will be wary of you. This is not the way to use poison. At least, your appearance must appear harmless, and not let others start to be wary of you just by looking at your appearance. As Yinglong listened to Moon Palace Jade Hair's preaching, his consciousness gradually became blurry. The battle on the ground had already reached its climax. Following the addition of Precious Pig, Kong Dai's defense line was completely destroyed. His primordial spirit was swallowed by Precious Pig. That guy in green had been watching from the side. When he saw such a change, he was so scared that he turned around and ran away. However, how could Hissing Sky Phoenix let him escape? Two arrow-like feathers shot out and hit the green-robed man, causing him to fall to the ground. Qin Wushuang sent his voice. "Sky Phoenix, bring the bodies of these two to the front. Hang them at a conspicuous place as a warning." Qin Wushuang knew that since this Kong Dai was an elite warrior at the profound void martial stage, he should not be a nameless figure. If such a person were to die at the dispersed praying mountain, it would shock the martial artists that had arrived later. Hissing Sky Phoenix left with the order. After about 2 hours, he flew back quickly and said to Qin Wushuang, "Master, is the Monkey King Mountain ahead? There are large amounts of bodies of freelance martial artists. There are also many hesitant freelance martial artists in the surrounding area. Apparently, they did not dare to move forward after being intimidated by those bodies." Large amounts of bodies? Just when Qin Wushuang was hesitating, suddenly Jade Hair scuttled up from below and said with a joyful smile, "Master, those bodies are the work of these 3 guys. That guy down there has already confessed. He said his name is Yinglong. Those people were all poisoned to death by him." Qin Wushuang laughed. This way, that Yinglong has saved us a lot of trouble." He turned to speak to hissing Sky Phoenix. "Sky Phoenix, continue to patrol ahead and warn those ignorant people. Currently, this dispersed praying mountain is a forbidden place. Whoever attempts to cross into the human countries must die." Qin Wushuang's voice was ruthless and rich murderous intentions flashed in his eyes. Today's first update. Today, regardless of anything, there will be 5 new chapters. If you still have the monthly votes, please vote for Xinghe. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. More chapters, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 499. Hissing Sky Phoenix accepted the order and left. Qin Wushuang then said to One Horn Mystical Horse and Pure Altar Precious Pig, "Mystical Horse and Precious Pig, listen well. The following battle may be even more dangerous. I don't want to see you guys bicker with each other. I want to see efficiency in battle, and not a battle of personal feelings. As long as you can kill the enemy as quickly as possible, I don't care what method you use." One Horn Mystical Horse and Pure Altar Precious Pig immediately nodded. "Yes, Master." The 12 sealed scrolls were all under Qin Wushuang's control. Qin Wushuang only needed to utter a chant and he could send them all back into the sealed scrolls and let them enter an eternal sleep. Thus, before their master, they had no room to resist. Of course, they also realized that this master was easy to talk to. At least, he did not order them around like slaves. To spiritual beasts like them, of course they would obey orders on the battle level. They would not hold any grudges. Near the Monkey King Mountain, more and more freelance martial artists stayed here. Apparently, those corpses that were killed by Yinglong's poison had made the freelance martial artists, who came later, feel pressured and indescribable panic. Most of these freelance martial artists came from the Orderly Mountain Prefecture or the Judge Mountain Prefecture. Some of them knew each other. Once they recognized them, this kind of suspicion and panic inevitably spread. For a time, these freelance martial artists who came later were at a standstill. Before they found out the truth of the matter, of course they could not move forward. A few of the more skillful and daring ones continued to advance without fear of death. However, under the obstruction of One Horn Mystical Horse and Pure Altar Precious Pig, they could not break through the defense line and were killed one after another. It would not matter if they were killed. The next day, these corpses would be thrown to the side of the most conspicuous main road. This way, these hesitant freelance martial artists were even more frightened out of their wits. Everyone had a scale in their hearts. They knew how strong they were and how strong the cultivators who were killed were. With such comparison, many freelance martial artists who knew their own strength had already started to beat a retreat. They knew that although that divine Tao treasure was wonderful, it was not as important as their lives. This way, one after another, freelance martial artists started to turn back. If the first person turned back, there would be a second person who did the same. Once the panic spread, the result was obvious. A third of the rogue cultivators who had gathered around the Monkey King Mountain had actually left. As for the remaining 2/3, it wasn't that they were determined to stay. Most of them just wanted to stay and observe. Qin Wushuang did not feel much joy when Hissing Sky Phoenix sent the message back. He knew that these rogue cultivators were like sand being washed away by a great wave. Those with average strength would be eliminated in the end. As for those who were strong, most of them would not shed tears until they saw the coffin. Only when the bloody reality was placed in front of them could these rogue cultivators completely give up. Qin Wushuang decided to push forward and kill his way to the foot of the Monkey King Mountain. He would purge those rogue cultivators who refused to leave. After the 5 spirit beasts heard Qin Wushuang's proposal, their blood boiled. Obviously, they were not happy with such a small fight. Only by killing to their heart's content could their appetites be completely satisfied. Mole, you are still in charge of setting up the formation outside. Once a fish escapes the net and rushes past your line of defense, you are in charge of cleaning it up. If you can't clean it up, give a warning. Jade Rabbit, I believe that you like this the most. Now is the time to witness your true strength. Qin Wushuang encouraged. Moon Palace Jade Rabbit beamed with joy. Master, leave it to me. I will definitely let them die in extreme despair. Heh. Sky Phoenix, you are in charge of supporting Treasure Pig and Mystical Horse. And Treasure Pig and Mystical Horse, you guys are still the main force. You are in charge of the cleansing of the front battlefield. Qin Wushuang assigned like this. 3 days. Within 3 days, I believe that you guys can hold on. After 3 days, I will summon you guys back to the Sealing Scroll and provide you with spiritual power. 3 days is enough for you guys to do a lot of things, right? The 5 spirit beasts were all in high spirits and agreed in unison. After the sky turns dark, start moving. The sun gradually set in the west. There were still close to 200 rogue cultivators on the Monkey King Mountain side. These people found it hard to choose whether to advance or retreat. Retreating and leaving just like this, they were unwilling. Letting them advance, they did not have the gut. Furthermore, everyone hoped that others would serve as a lackey. These rogue cultivators were in batches in the east and west, each stationed in their own regions. They were also very wary of each other. Clearly, they did not trust each other very much. Night gradually arrived. In the night, the clouds were very thick. There was not a single star at all. The entire night seemed very stifling. Suddenly, a scream broke the silence of the night. A tent in the southwest direction suddenly turned into a sea of fire. The 6 cultivators inside were already burned into people on fire. No matter what method they used, they were unable to extinguish this fire. These 6 people scurried out of the tent and rolled on the ground. But no matter how they rolled, everywhere they reached, it was a sea of fire. Not only did they fail to extinguish the fire on their bodies, it also ignited the vegetation on the ground. For a moment, the fire was like a fire dragon, spreading in all directions. If this fire was not stopped, once it started burning, it was very likely that it would ignite the surrounding tents together. Stop them, stop them. Some of the rogue cultivator experts who reacted quickly were already alert. Stop them. Kill them. Quick. For a moment, attacks came from all directions at the same time. The saber light and sword shadows were extremely dazzling, like meteors streaking across the sky. Under the saber light and sword light, all 6 people were cut into meat paste. After these 6 people were extinguished, the fire did not continue to spread. Just as everyone was still in shock, several tents in the north and east suddenly caught fire at the same time. One after another, the tents in all directions were set ablaze. This sudden change caused these rogue cultivators' teams to be in chaos. Someone deliberately set the fire. Yeah, who is so vicious? Catch the culprit. For a moment, there were endless shouts and shouting at each other. Overnight, only shouts could be heard everywhere, but not even a shadow could be seen. It was not until late at night that the fire was extinguished. Some of the powerhouses among these rogue cultivators had already realized that something was wrong. They began to take the initiative to break the barrier and began to gather to discuss countermeasures. Soon, this group of rogue cultivators had elected 8 leaders. Just when these 8 leaders had gathered to discuss, suddenly, a burst of cold and sinister laughter emerged from the sky. You idiots, instead of staying in the Xianyuan Mound, you came to this place to seek death. Don't you know that the forbidden spiritual zones and the human countries have always minded their own business? Let me tell you, head south, it is the gateway to hell. If you are not afraid of death, go ahead. Like a wandering ghost in the night sky, this sinister warning seemed to be there and not. It gave off a fleeting and unpredictable feeling. The 8 leaders exchanged glances with each other. From their expressions there was a sense of shock. Mr. Shui, look at this voice, what is the strength behind it? Everyone's gaze stopped at a man covered from head to toe in red equipment. The entire body of this person was like a ball of rapidly burning torch. This person was a famous rogue cultivator from the Judge Mountain Prefecture. He possessed the super strength of the profound void martial stage. Among these 8 people, he had the highest reputation and the most authoritative figure in the world of rogue cultivators. That red-robed Mr. Schwez said with a duck's voice. This voice can condense and disperse. He should be at the profound void martial stage. Profound void martial stage? Many of these people drew a breath of cold air. However, Mr. Schwez shook his head. It's impossible for him to be at the profound void martial stage. If he were at the profound void martial stage, it would be impossible for him to create such a scene. Everyone, do you still remember the 2 corpses that were hung here? Those are Kong Dai's corpses. Who is that Kong Dai? In the world of rogue cultivators of the Orderly Mountain Prefecture, perhaps many of you know Kong Dai better than I do. And such a powerful elite warrior at the profound void martial stage like Kong Dai was killed and his corpse was exposed to the public. This means that the power of the enemy has surpassed the combat power of the profound void martial stage. Or else, under such circumstances, it would be impossible for him to come and go as he pleased. Not to mention unknowingly. Before he had finished speaking, another burst of straightforward laughter came from the outside. Listen well, you bastards. From now on, at every moment, it's possible that some of you will lose your life unknowingly. Our principle is that only death awaits those who want to pass through this dispersed praying mountain. Those who turn back and retreat, we will not pursue you. For those who stay here, you will bet on your luck. Let's make a move every hour or so. That Mr. Schwez's face turned deathly pale as he mumbled. Did you hear that? Another one. Another one at the profound void martial stage. Just when everyone was still looking at each other in dismay, another lazy voice emerged. Buddy, let's make a bet. From now until tomorrow, let's see who kills the most small fries. Like a curse from hell, this voice deeply stimulated the nerves of these rogue martial artists. Suddenly, a rogue martial artist on the north side wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. He held his face with both hands and started to cry loudly. Next, someone saw that the person who was wailing had a pair of feet that kept shedding meat like tree bark. And the way it was shedding was extremely strange. It was as if a roasted leg was being cut off piece by piece with a knife. His expression was strange and terrifying. This person let out 2 cries of ho-ho. Suddenly, he grabbed his neck with both hands as if something hard to swallow was stuck in his throat. Next, this person started to roll on the ground. Blood started to flow out of his 7 orifices. And suddenly, the hand that was grabbing his throat could not help but grab something in the air. Without struggling for a moment, his entire body became taut and he lay flat on the ground. Apparently, he had stopped breathing. When they saw this strange scene and remembered those corpses that had been poisoned to death next to the Monkey King Mountain, inwardly, these rogue martial artists shuddered with fear. Although I only came back after 7 in the evening from the wedding banquet, regardless, even if I stayed up until midnight, I will write at least 5 chapters. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 500. This was only the beginning of fear for these freelance martial artists. After this terrifying scene, in a moment another person had fallen. Although the circumstances of their deaths were different, it was clear that they had all died from poisoning. In one night, the entire area of a few dozen miles had turned into a hellish killing field. And the people responsible for harvesting the lives of these freelance martial artists were like ghosts, as they could not capture their whereabouts. Each of those 8 leaders were swift and fierce people. Although they knew that they had encountered an elite warrior, These people all had strong personalities and the most determined mind. Although they felt somewhat uneasy inwardly, they still decided to resist stubbornly. The 8 of them split up and all freelance martial artists gathered together to set up camp. Each of their camps formed a circular arched shape to form a circular chain defense circle. This way, regardless of which direction the enemy attacked from, they could observe them from any angle. One must say that this method was the best one they could think of at the moment. And these 8 leaders also took the lead and were responsible for patrolling the area. Darn it, when did this dispersed praying mountain become this terrifying? Among these 8 leaders, a guy with a body like a winter melon swore. Mr. Shui, do you think this group of assassins hidden in the dark are elite warriors from the Xian Yuan Mound or the human countries? A martial artist dressed like a scholar asked. Before that Mr. Shui had answered, that guy with the winter melon body said, "How could there be such elite warriors in the human countries? For sure, they are elite warriors from the Xian Yuan Mound. I think they have the same goal as us and are also aiming for the divine treasure in the human countries. They want to monopolize it and thus, they are here to kill us freelance martial artists." Apparently, that scholar did not agree. The martial artists of the Xian Yuan Mound always have a prejudice against that human countries. We feel that it is only an abandoned place, and would not have elite warriors. In fact, I don't think so. Take that Qin Wushuang as an example. Didn't he also come from the human countries? Didn't he rely on the divine treasure to come out? This is also the reason why we are working so hard. For those mole crickets and crickets in the human countries, it's a waste for them to possess the divine treasure. That short winter melon appeared to feel good about himself as he said this with spittle flying everywhere. Suddenly, that Mr. Shui opened his mouth to speak. These people have a mysterious background. They deliberately did not show their faces and are playing with us. I don't think he's a human expert. Even if 1 or 2 super geniuses appeared in the human countries, it was absolutely impossible for them to have several profound void stage experts. In the human countries, the perfect stage was already the top elite warrior. Why would a profound void stage martial artist hang around in the human countries? This way, he is still a martial artist from the Xian Yuan Mound. You want to monopolize that divine Tao item. Mr. Shui frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "If it's a martial artist from the Xian Yuan Mound with such powerful strength, there would be no need for them to set up any obstructions here. If he had the leisure to do so, he might as well go to the human countries first. After all, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. Everyone understands this simple logic." However, the scholar said, "Mr. Shui, have you considered the possibility that the enemy's strength is very strong, enough to divide into 2 groups? They stayed here to deal with us, but they've already arrived at the human nations." Mr. Shui sighed. If he has such strength, then it's not something a rogue cultivator can do. Even the strongest group of rogue cultivators could not possibly have such a strong force, unless Mr. Shui did not speak the following words directly. However, each person at the scene was an astute person. When they heard the first half of the sentence, of course, they guessed the latter half. It was simple. In the Xian Yuan Mound, only those sects could possess such strength. And it was definitely not something a third-rate sect could possess. At least, they must have the strength of a third-rate or second-rate sect. There would not be many such powerhouses in the entire Xian Yuan Mound. In the Orderly Mountain Prefecture and the Judge Mountain Prefecture, besides the prefecture lords, there were only 2 such powerhouses. One was the Dark Green Cloud Taoist sect of the Orderly Mountain Prefecture, and the other was the primary central sect of the Judge Mountain Prefecture. When they thought here, everyone's eyes were somewhat disappointed. A wave of apparent disappointment was expressed from their expression. If those major sects had stepped out, the outcome was almost determined. Even if these rogue martial artists had exceptional skills, it would be impossible for them to fight against the sections. For the sex, even if they pulled out a strand of hair, it would be enough to crush the rogue martial artist. A divine Tao item, even for powerhouses like the Dark Green Cloud Taoist sect and the Primary Central sect, it would not be strange for them to be tempted by a divine Tao item. After all, acquiring a divine Tao item was a form of protection. Although a divine Tao item was not equal to the Supreme Tao stage, having a divine Tao item meant a form of identity and power. One must say that this was a long night. In this night, the killing never stopped. Even under the supervision of the 8 major leaders, there were still endless killing moves that kept reaping the lives of these rogue martial artists. These massacres continued until dawn and finally came to an end. That eerie warning sounded again at the break of dawn. This night can only be considered a warning. During the day we will not attack, unless someone tries to cross our forbidden area. Still those words, those who turn back, must survive. Those who advance, must die. Those who do not retreat or advance, must wait for death. If there were not those bloody examples, these words would definitely be powerless intimidation before the rogue martial artists. And with these words, these warnings were extremely persuasive, like a death warrant. When dawn arrived, almost half of the rogue martial artists started to turn back without needing to be mobilized. By noon, 2/3 of the rogue martial artists had already retreated. And in the afternoon, as the sky gradually darkened, there were groups of 2 or 3 rogue martial artists who also followed on the path back. By the time the sun finally set, there were less than 20 people left. These 20 people were all arrogant and unruly experts, and all of them believed that they had enough capital to protect themselves. These 20 people had obviously formed a battle line at this moment. The rogue martial artists, who were originally unfamiliar with each other, consciously formed a tacit alliance at this time. Obviously, at this critical juncture, it was very important for everyone to work together. And those 8 major leaders were indeed the most swift and fierce. None of them left. At this time, these 20 rogue martial artists were all gathered together. That Mr. Xue said, "Everyone, it is very obvious that this is a conspiracy. Moreover, the other party's strength is obviously not enough to swallow everyone. It is precisely because of this that they deliberately created a sense of mystery and fear, and used guerrilla tactics to break us down one by one. Last night we fell into their trap. Today we must take the initiative to counterattack. I see that everyone present has the strength of the transformation void martial stage. There are also a few at the profound void martial stage. With such strength, if we use it well, we will not allow ourselves to be trampled on. To put it bluntly, even if we are facing the Primary Central sect or the Dark Green Cloud Taoist sect, as long as their number 1 leader has not come, we will have the power to fight." That scholar also nodded in agreement. Mr. Xue's words are reasonable. The enemy's strategy of dividing us is to cut us down piece by piece like cutting meat. Because they do not have the appetite to swallow us whole, they would use psychological intimidation tactics. Mr. Xue, the 20 of us can be divided into 5 groups. Each of us has our own responsibilities. Once we discover the enemy's tracks, we will swarm them together. As long as we take out one, the rest will be easy. Okay, let's divide into 5 groups. Each group will have 4 people and is just enough to manage. It's also easy to arrange. Quality is more important than quantity. The fewer people we have, the easier it is to arrange. Soon, the groups were divided. There were no questions about the 4 people in each group. Regardless of whether it was the scholar or Mr. Xue, they had both overlooked one person. This person had a serious expression. His hair and eyebrows had been dyed black and looked no different from an ordinary person. However, this person's silver pupils appeared somewhat different in the dark night. This person was Ying Long, who had been controlled by the venomous insect. At this moment, this Ying Long had completely become a puppet assassin controlled by Moon Palace Jade Hair. 5 groups, 5 tents. They were divided into east, south, west, north, and center. The east, south, west, and north positions always had people. The 4 people in the remaining tent were responsible for patrolling. Each group would take turns to be on duty. Each group would patrol for 2 hours. Soon, the first group had patrolled for 2 hours and was ready to switch with the second group. According to the rules, the second group would go on patrol. After the first group had finished patrolling, they would replace the second group's tent. Then, when the second group had finished patrolling, the third group would take over. The second group would then replace the third group's tent. This cycle would ensure that there would be no shortage of people in the east, south, west, and north positions. After the first group had returned, no one from the second group had come out to replace them. Vividly, Mr. Shwe sensed something was wrong. He quickly walked to the vicinity of the second tent and used his divine sense to search. He actually did not sense any signs of life. Instead, it was replaced by a bloody aura of death. Mr. Shwe lifted the curtain and indeed saw 3 corpses lying in the tent. The way they died was extremely sinister and terrifying. This made Mr. Shwe immediately think of the few people who had been poisoned last night. The way they died was also like this: one group, 4 people, but only 3 corpses. In other words, one of them had disappeared into thin air. The other practitioners saw Mr. Shwe standing blankly near the tent and knew that something had happened. They all ran over. When they saw the situation, their expressions were incomparably horrified. Dead again, and 3 of them had died at once. They had died without any signs and without a sound. Even the sound of struggle could not be heard. That kind of situation was simply as if their lives had been taken away in their sleep. Using poison, it was using poison again. Moreover, this method of using poison had already reached a stage where one could not guard against it. It was simply pervasive. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 501. Mr. Shwe, why are there only 3 corpses? Where's the last one? That short wintermelon couldn't help but ask. Mr. Shwe's facial muscles twitched as if he was bitten by a venomous snake. Cunning! Truly cunning. Do you still remember that young man? The one with silver eyes? It must be him. He poisoned these 3 fellow cultivators to death. Looks like that guy sneaked in with evil intentions. Silver eyes? Good at using poison? That scholar was stunned. Speaking of which, he looks a bit like the 3rd brother of the 3 Kong Dai brothers, Inglong. Do you remember this person? Inglong? No, Inglong has silver hair and silver eyebrows. That young man, I remember his hair was black. I definitely won't remember it wrongly. That scholar said with a miserable tone. Hair can be changed, but how many people with silver eyes have you seen? How many people have you seen who are good at using poison at the same time? These words instantly stumped everyone. The truth was like this. In the wandering cultivator world, people with silver eyes were very rare. People with silver eyes who were good at using poison were even rarer. However, some people still expressed their puzzlement. That's not right. If that person is Inglong, then why would Kong Dai die in this area and have his corpse hung high up here? No matter how disloyal that Inglong is, it's impossible for him to poison Kong Dai to death and hang his corpse in public, right? Moreover, Kong Dai is a profound void martial stage expert. Even if that Inglong has the intention, he doesn't have the ability. That's right. Could it be that Kong Dai's corpse is fake? Mr. Shwe resolutely denied. Kong Dai's corpse is definitely not fake. I can absolutely confirm this point. Kong Dai is 100% the real Kong Dai. But whether that person is Inglong or not, that's not known. Mr. Shwe, now, we only have 16 people left. We still don't know how many people the enemy has and where they come from. That's right. It's not a good idea to go on like this. Motherf asterisk Kerr, this group of people are pretending to be gods and ghosts. We can't even see a shadow. There's really no way to fight this kind of battle. We don't even know who to fight with. It's too depressing. Mr. Shwe sighed and gazed at the night sky. He didn't have the slightest clue. For the enemy to be so unscrupulous, it was obvious that the morale of this side had been completely destroyed. The short winter melon suddenly exclaimed, Mr. Shwe, in my opinion, our train of thought was wrong from the start. She shouldn't have waited here for so long. Why don't you tell me what's the benefit of waiting here? Wait for others to leave first? Everyone had the same idea, but who would be so stupid to take the initiative to stand out? Therefore, our thoughts are dominated by fear from the very beginning. If those people didn't run back, and everyone charged forward together, the other party wouldn't be able to stop them if they didn't have enough people. Although the short winter melon's words were crude, his words resonated with the general public. Now, everyone could see that the enemy was deliberately trying to mislead them and make them hesitate. Then, they used the tactic of splitting them up one by one, which led to the current situation. Otherwise, with hundreds of loose cultivators charging at full speed, the other party wouldn't know who to stop even if they wanted to. Even if there were people who would die in the chaos, it would never be like the current situation. Mr. Shwe's prestige was very high. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. Clearly, they were waiting for him to make the final decision. Everyone, it seems that defending to the death really isn't a solution. Retreat or advance, everyone state your opinion. If there are many people in favor of retreat, we'll retreat. If there are many people in favor of advancing, then we'll go all out, how about it? Okay, we'll listen to Mr. Shwe. Let's do that. Mr. Shwe nodded when he saw everyone agree and continued, those in favor of retreat, please raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, you'll silently support advancing. Looking around, there were only 2 or 3 people. He hesitantly raised his arm a few times. Seeing that no one raised their hand, he put down his arm in the middle. Okay, so everyone feels that waiting to die isn't a solution. Then we'll choose to charge. 16 people, work together to see whose good fortune is higher and who can pass smoothly in the end. If you pass, it's victory. Mr. Shwe encouraged to the limit. At this moment, another sneer sounded in the air, playing this kind of trick again? Surnamed Shwe, if you want others to work for you and cover you as you break through this death zone, then I have to tell you. Unfortunately, your wishful thinking didn't succeed. During the day, when I asked you to leave, you didn't leave. This means that you've already given up hope of survival. Since you've chosen death, then we can only follow your will. With that, the voice laughed eerily and disappeared in the air again. At this moment, everyone suddenly felt a violent tremor under their feet. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Even the earth's veins underground were shaking, making experts of their cultivation level feel unsteady. They swayed left and right. Everyone be careful, this might be an attack from underground. Mr. Shwe made a prompt decision and shouted, everyone, use the flying tactic. Those who stayed here were at least of the transformation void martial stage, and all of them had the ability to fly. Each of them used their own abilities and flew up into the sky. How would they know that this was one of Qin Wushuang's plans? It was to force them into the sky and then launch an attack. At the moment when they flew up into the sky, hissing Sky Phoenix attacked from the sky, flapping its wings that covered the sky. It opened its mouth and many fireballs that were as hot as the sun spun out continuously. The speed of the fireballs was too fast for the eyes to take in. This hissing Sky Phoenix was at the transformation void martial stage, but its attack power was so strong that even Qin Wushuang was shocked. The enormous power released by this fireball instantly roasted the surrounding space into a huge oven. The few void transformation stage experts immediately felt waves of throbbing. They were almost unable to breathe calmly and were barely able to hold on. At this moment, the one-horn mystical horse dashed out from the crack in the void. The one-horn drill on its head was like a spiral that rolled at high speed. The impact was so strong that it was like a divine weapon that could destroy heaven and earth. It directly split two transformation void martial stage experts into 4 pieces, and they fell down freely. Instantly, the ground was covered in blood and flesh. The pure altar precious pig was not to be outdone. Its fat body made it look like a huge rubber ball. It was round and round, but its speed was not slow. This fat pig dashed and bounced like a rubber ball. The bouncing power was so strong that these rogue cultivators had never heard of it before. They only felt that a huge spirit beast was bouncing over suddenly. Divine power, devour! Swoosh! Swoosh! With 3 continuous sounds, the primordial spirits of 3 rogue cultivators were sucked over by the devoured divine power. The remaining 3 soft corpses fell into the dust hopelessly. The 3 spirit beasts of the transformation void martial stage joined forces to attack. Who knew how many times they had practiced this kind of cooperation, and who knew how many merits they had achieved in actual combat? In just a breath, 7 or 8 rogue cultivators had lost their lives. This made Mr. Schwe stunned. Obviously, he did not expect the impact to be so strong. When Mr. Schwe saw that the situation was not good, he turned around and left. That pure altar precious pig laughed loudly. "Hey, that red-robed guy, where are you going?" Even though Mr. Schwe's methods were strong, he also knew that being surrounded by these 3 freaks was also a dead end. Of course, he would not answer. He just desperately flew back. In the dark night, he did not care about the direction he was running in. Precious Pig laughed loudly. "Want to leave? I'll see where you go." Precious Pig had not finished speaking when Mr. Schwe's entire body suddenly felt a strange chill. His body that was flying in midair suddenly trembled. Almost at the same time, 3 green lights suddenly shot out from the void, heading straight for the vital parts of his entire body. Made a move. Qin Wushuang, who had been suppressed for so long, finally made a move. This was Qin Wushuang's first all-out attack since returning to the human countries. It was also the strongest release of the fury that he had accumulated for so long. These 3 arrows represented the most furious flames in Qin Wushuang's heart. At the same time, it also represented Qin Wushuang's determination to fight without any hesitation. Even if it was an elite warrior of the profound void martial stage, Qin Wushuang would not shrink back. If he wanted to fight, he would fight to the end. The 3 green lights were like meteors chasing after the moon. Their speed was fast and their power was fierce. It was obvious that Qin Wushuang had unleashed the peak state that he could reach at the moment. Qin Wushuang had waited for too long to prepare these 3 arrows. This was a warm-up for killing Luoting. It was also a test that Qin Wushuang gave to himself. They were all elite warriors of the profound void martial stage. If these 3 arrows could not kill this elite warrior of the profound void martial stage in front of him, then, when he faced Luoting in the future, what would he use to kill Luoting? Relying on the 5 great spirit beasts? Naturally, it was impossible for Luoting to not have any trump cards. Only by using this indestructible graceful spiritual bow would he, Qin Wushuang, have the best choice to defeat the enemy and achieve victory. Full of anger, he pushed these 3 arrows. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Mr. Schwe. For a moment, Mr. Schwe was dumbfounded. It was as if all the vital parts of his body were nailed by invisible nails. He did not even have the slightest movement to evade. In fact, this was because the speed was too fast and he had no time to react. In the midst of panic, Mr. Schwe activated the incantation. Rays of protective golden light overflowed from the surface of his body. This golden light shot out layers of halos, trying to stop the momentum of these 3 dark green arrows. However, he had underestimated the power of the graceful spiritual bow. The 3 dark green arrows rushed forward wildly and directly broke through the golden light. The 3 green lights immediately nailed into Mr. Shue's body. Qin Wushuang let out a long sigh of relief. If the dark green arrows were to pierce into the body, then this person would only have one outcome, and that was death. The green lights suddenly exploded. Mr. Shue's body was like a huge balloon that suddenly burst, shattering into pieces. The 3 green lights circled around and flew back with a wave of Qin Wushuang's hand. This remarkable ability to control the dark green arrows was a skill that Qin Wushuang had mastered after entering the refined void martial stage. This way, it ensured that Qin Wushuang could use the graceful spiritual bow to attack continuously. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 502. With Mr. Shue's death, the battle situation had fallen into the control of Qin Wushuang and his group. After the other 2 profound void martial stage warriors had been killed one after another, the remaining few elite warriors at the transformation void martial stage were powerless to stop Qin Wushuang's murderous footsteps, not to mention escaping. 16 cultivators, including Mr. Shue, were wiped out without any suspense. Satisfying, haha, it's so satisfying. One horn mystical horse and pure altar precious pig laugh. Clearly, these 2 nights of battle had more or less allowed them to experience the feeling of satisfaction. Only through such battles could they feel the thrill of battle. Sky Phoenix, search around and see if there are any fish that have escaped the net, or if there are any ears on the wall. Qin Wushuang instructed. Hissing Sky Phoenix gave a cry and flew out. After a few days of obstructing and taking the initiative to attack, Qin Wushuang and his group had completely grasped the situation at the dispersed praying mountain. And their defense line also kept advancing. Currently, at the border between the Orderly Mountain Prefecture and the Xian Yuan Mound, large groups of freelance martial artists had gathered at this border area. Currently, these freelance martial artists had viewed the dispersed praying mountain as a forbidden place. Those freelance martial artists that had escaped from the dispersed praying mountain had spread the nightmarish experience in full detail. This had caused many freelance martial artists that harbored dreams of heading to the human countries to feel as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. Elite warriors at the profound void martial stage kept dying. Such news was enough to stop the majority of freelance martial artists. Death would never be a joke. Even if these martial artists possessed divine skills that ordinary people did not possess, after all, life was equal to everyone. Before entering the Supreme Tao stage, everyone only had one life. No one would joke around with their own life. This way, the border between the dispersed praying mountain and the Orderly Mountain Prefecture had almost become a blockage. Especially at the Ironwood State City at the border, freelance martial artists from all over the world had gathered at the Ironwood State City. This had caused the city to endure tremendous pressure. Fortunately, the capacity of the Ironwood State City was still rather impressive. Even though so many loose cultivators had rushed in all of a sudden, it did not descend into chaos. At this time, these freelance martial artists no longer had their previous fanaticism. Especially those who had already gone to the dispersed praying mountain and had returned, each of them hung their heads dejectedly. Inwardly, they were filled with fear, unwillingness, and many other thoughts. Motherf *Ker, divine Tao treasures are really good stuff. So many profound void martial stage and transformation martial stage experts had lost their lives. Along the way, the ground was littered with corpses. Looks like the allure of a divine Tao item is really great. That's why I'm suspicious. How could there be an item of the divine Tao in a godforsaken place like the human kingdoms? Everyone, tell me, have we been fooled by someone? When did this news come out? Who was the first to spread the news? When this person said this, the other rogue cultivators fell into deep thought. Some of the more quick-witted ones couldn't help but nod thoughtfully. That's true. If the human kingdoms really have divine Tao treasures that can nurture geniuses, then the human kingdoms should have produced many geniuses over the years. However, have you heard that in these years, have any exceptional figures appeared in the human kingdoms? Isn't it just Qin Wushuang? It's more rumors than seeing it with our own eyes. Who knows how powerful that Qin Wushuang is? Isn't that right? He had built a little reputation in the human kingdoms and spread it all the way to the Xian Yuan Empire. I feel that most likely we have been fooled. Such voices became more and more noisy. Instantly, it had caused the Freelance Martial Artist Association of the Ironwood State City to become extremely lively. At this time, in one of the rooms of the association, a person covered with a black cloak was standing before the window. Behind him, a subordinate stood respectfully. This person in the black cloak was Luo Ting of the Heavenly Luo Taoist sect. And that respectful subordinate was Black Panther, Luo Ting's lackey and incompetent military advisor. Did you hear that? Someone is already suspicious, Luo Ting said with a somewhat displeased tone. Black Panther, you did not do your best in guiding public opinion. Or else, no one would have seen through any flaws. Black Panther felt somewhat wronged. He had already tried his best to appear as if he was serious when he spread those rumors. As for people starting to doubt him, anyone with the ability to think would more or less become suspicious after encountering the matter of the dispersed praying mountain. Young master, now the most important question is, who are those murderers at the dispersed praying mountain? Could it be that Qin Wushuang again? Hearing their description, it seems that those murderers include spiritual beasts and humans. It seems to be Qin Wushuang's group. Black Panther said carefully. That Luo Ting shouted. Impossible! A while ago, that Qin Wushuang had appeared at the Wild Flame Cliff. It's impossible for him to have rushed back to the human countries before me. Black Panther, do you think that Qin Wushuang's speed is faster than mine? Black Panther said. I am only afraid that Qin Wushuang is extremely cunning. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. No one knows if his real body has truly gone to the Xian Yuan Mound or not. Perhaps Iron Haller's pretentious information could be fake news. It could even be an illusion created by that Qin Wushuang. However, Luo Ting shook his head to deny. Black Panther, my instincts tell me that Qin Wushuang has definitely entered the Xian Yuan Mound. Only, I cannot capture his current location. I can only say that this guy is extremely cunning. Black Panther gave a long sigh. If those murderers and snipers at the dispersed praying mountain are not Qin Wushuang, then who could it be? From my investigation, the Dark Green Cloud Taoist sect and the Primary Central sect did not send anyone to the dispersed praying mountain. In other words, these 2 major sects are not interested in that rumor. Perhaps their interest in Qin Wushuang far surpasses their interest in Qin Wushuang's family and sect. I don't care who those snipers are. In the end, I don't want them to continue to exist and stop the footsteps of these freelance martial artists. With those people guarding the dispersed praying mountain, if they cannot move, these freelance martial artists will not pass the border. When Luo Ting thought here, his handsome face twisted and his muscles trembled slightly. He said angrily, that Qin Wushuang is so lucky. Even the dispersed praying mountain has people to help him? Young master, I heard that the Monkey clan of the Monkey King Mountain has some relationship with Qin Wushuang. Could it be that the Monkey King Mountain has done this? Black Panther raised another question. Monkey King Mountain? First, they do not have the gut. Second, they do not have the power. Again, Luo Ting denied Black Panther's guess. Up to this point, the development of the situation seemed to have gotten out of Luo Ting's control. At least, the situation at the dispersed praying mountain was something Luo Ting could never have imagined. Suddenly, Luo Ting asked again, Is there any news about that slut? Black Panther shook his head with frustration. Recently, I have been following the movements of those freelance martial artists and did not hear any news related to Miss Mu Rong. Young master, you said that all those freelance martial artists had entered the dispersed praying mountain. Could it be that none of them had passed through the mountain and entered the human countries? Luo Ting said with an annoyed tone. If I knew, I would not be this confused. While they were talking, suddenly, Luo Ting turned around with an extremely unsightly expression. He made a hand gesture to ask Black Panther not to make a sound and asked him to use his spiritual perception to listen. Black Panther was confused. He followed Luo Ting's words and used his spiritual perception to listen around. He only heard a loud voice ask from the hall downstairs, "Is it true? Your information is also a rumor, right?" "I don't know if it's true or not. Anyways, I heard it from someone else. That person is very young and has a pair of strange silver eyes." He spoke the truth and I had no choice but to believe him. After some careful consideration, I do feel that it makes sense. That heavenly Luo Daoist sect had failed to kill Qin Wushuang, and there were some rumors about Qin Wushuang and that Miss Mu Rong. It would be strange if Luo Ting was not flustered and exasperated. It would not be strange at all if this was Luo Ting's scheme to deliberately spread rumors. I think it's believable. Luo Ting? That #1 talented young disciple of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect? It's impossible, right? Would a disciple of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect be this despicable? Haha, disciples of the sect are not necessarily more noble than us freelance martial artists. Most likely, they are even more despicable than us freelance martial artists. I always feel that this matter is somewhat unreliable. If Luo Ting had truly done it, it would be a matter of losing his reputation. If someone were to spread the news to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, even the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect would suffer. If another major powerhouse of the forbidden spiritual zones were to call out, the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect would not be able to bear the consequences. Everyone was talking amongst themselves, and the discussion was very lively. Luo Ting's expression was filled with anger and frustration, as if someone owed him a few tens of millions of crystal stones and did not intend to pay him back. "Did you hear that? Black Panther, this is what you did?" Luo Ting almost gnashed his teeth in anger. "I asked you to arrange such a small matter, and you let people lead the disaster to me." Black Panther felt that he had been wronged. "Young master, I did it carefully and certainly would not have exposed my identity. There must be something hidden in this matter." "What hidden?" Luo Ting was about to go crazy. He knew the consequences better than anyone. If the matter was truly discovered to be his doing, even if the Heavenly Emperor Mountain did not pursue the responsibility of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect, certainly, the entire Heavenly Luo Daoist sect would become the public enemy of the freelance martial artist world. Only Luo Ting would never have imagined that Qin Wushuang, the person he had set up wholeheartedly, was already preparing to launch a counterattack against him. "Young master, once the rumors spread out, the situation would be disadvantageous to us. What should we do? What should we do? Deny it flatly. This matter is not a theft, there are no stolen goods. With just a few words, no one can truly punish us. Anyway, those servants who spread the rumors have been killed by you to silence them. Dead men tell no tales, no one can do anything." Luo Ting was rather hoodlum and showed a shameless face. "Regardless, we must get rid of those snipers at the dispersed praying mountain. Rumors will not stop the unreasonable greed of the freelance martial artists." "Black Panther, I don't care what method you use, you must make those darned guys disappear." Luo Ting was flustered and exasperated. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 503. On the contrary, Black Panther was even more calm. Young master, before we get rid of those guys from the dispersed praying mountain, we need to get rid of this guy downstairs who is spreading lies. If we let him keep talking, I am afraid more and more people will believe him. Even if we do this in secret, it will certainly affect the reputation of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Cold murderous intentions emerged from Luo Ting's eyes as he fixed his gaze outside the window. Only, he saw spots of red flowers. They were dark red azaleas. This blood-red color made the murderous intentions in Luo Ting's eyes even more intense. Black Panther, go investigate. See who is spreading the rumors. I do not wish for this person to live to see the sun tomorrow. Luo Ting instructed coldly. Black Panther immediately nodded. Young master, I will do it now. Regardless of who he is, I will make him disappear without a trace. This Black Panther was Luo Ting's trusted subordinate. Other than having a very high cultivation, he was also very familiar with all kinds of method. No matter where, if he wanted to make a rogue cultivator disappear, it would be a piece of cake for him. After Luo Ting watched Black Panther disappear in the sky, he felt incredibly irritated. This kind of irritability was something that a proud son of heaven like him had never encountered before. Born in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, he was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. From the beginning of his training to his teenage years, wherever he went, he was treated as the apple of people's eye. It was because everyone knew that this young man was nurtured by the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. He was nurtured as a Dao warrior. With such identity, Luo Ting had never suffered any grievances from a young age. He would not have to worry about anything. All he needed to do was to fulfill his role as the son of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. The only sense of frustration came from Murong Su. Currently, this sense of frustration had caused him to lose his balance. Initially, he thought that it would be easy for him to deal with Qin Wushuang from the heavenly Luo Daoist sect and a guy from the human countries. However, half a month had passed. Not to mention Qin Wushuang himself, he did not even catch a shadow of him. As for the plan he had devised, it couldn't be said that it wasn't sinister, but it was as if the heavens were trying to make things difficult for him. In the past, in their eyes, the human countries that were like flat ground to them were like the abyss of hell. Those freelance martial artists had all died at the dispersed praying mountain. Even Kong Dai and Shuiyu, freelance martial artists at the profound void martial stage, had to nurse a grievance at the dispersed praying mountain. One could imagine that the attacking powerhouse at the dispersed praying mountain was not ordinary. Even if it was Luo Ting himself, before he found a countermeasure, he would absolutely not dare to enter. Since his opponent could kill profound void martial stage experts like Kong Dai and Shuiyu, he might have the ability to kill Luo Ting. Although there was still a gap between the profound void martial stage of those rogue cultivators and Luo Ting, who was favored by the heavens, there was still a gap between them. Be it in terms of equipment or other aspects, they were at a disadvantage. However, if Luo Ting were to head to the dispersed praying mountain himself, he would never have the courage to do so. Because of this, the accumulated anger in Luo Ting's heart could be imagined. Just as he was brooding, the Black Panther suddenly walked out of the void. Young master. He Bao's tone was somewhat hurried. What's wrong? Could it be that you can't even take care of a freelance martial artist? Apparently, there was some displeasure in Luo Ting's tone. He Bao said with a stutter, No. I was downstairs. A moment ago I seemed to have seen a person. Who? Luo Ting asked coldly. Could it be Qin Wushuang? If I am not mistaken, it should be Miss Mu Rong. These words were like a bolt from the blue, and instantly, Luo Ting was dumbstruck. Then, a strange smile emerged on Luo Ting's face. Inside this smile, it was filled with uncontrollable anger. He said while gritting his teeth, That slut finally showed herself? He Bao said. At that time, I only caught a quick glimpse and did not dare to get too close. I didn't know if she had elite warriors protecting her. Thus, I did not follow her recklessly. Elite warriors? She left home for such a long time. How could she have gotten any elite warriors to protect her? Luo Ting was extremely dissatisfied with He Bao's excessive caution. If you let that slut leave your sight, then it's the same as not seeing her. Since Miss Mu Rong is at the Ironwood State City, surely she would not have gone too far. Young master, could it be you are going to see her? He Bao still spoke with a cautious tone. I think at this critical juncture it's better for young master to not see her. Or else, that Miss Mu Rong would feel that it was truly young master's scheme to deal with that Qin Wushuang. He Bao did not dare to get too close because of this reason. If he were to expose his identity before an acquaintance, people would associate it with the various speculations about the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. They could not help but associate it with Luo Ting. In this case, Luo Ting would face the danger of being exposed. Luo Ting said angrily, "If it's truly that slut, I must see her." He Bao immediately said, "You must not. Young master, for this matter, you must not be willful." He Bao, this slut is hiding from me, could it be I have to hide from her? To see her now is definitely not the right time. From my point of view, the best choice is to follow her and keep following her. At the same time, I will send someone to inform Mu Rong Qianji. If Senior Mu Rong does not care, we will have an excuse to accuse him of deliberately indulging his daughter. If Mu Rong Qianji wants to get involved, how could Miss Mu Rong not return to the floating snow house with him? As long as she returns to the floating snow house, we must fulfill this engagement. By that time, as long as Miss Mu Rong marries over, it would be young master's business to take revenge and humiliate her. Bystanders would not be able to interfere. Now, if you go rashly, what can you get? Humiliate her with a few words? If you let her leave in a fit of anger, I am afraid young master will never see her again. Luo Ting's chest rose and fell rapidly. However, in the end, he suppressed his anger and nodded. Then for today, we will not beat the grass to scare the snake. He Bao, immediately contact Mu Rong Qianji through your connections. This Senior Mu Rong should not have returned to the floating snow house. He Bao nodded. I will do it now. Let's see how Senior Mu Rong will take care of it. If he does not care, immediately inform the honored Taoist and report all the facts. Our heavenly Luo Taoist sect will not be fooled by the floating snow house. Luo Ting appeared to be filled with righteous indignation. Naturally, He Bao was a yes man. Naturally, Luo Ting did not need to explain these matters. He knew his limits. He knew better than anyone how to do it and how to handle it in the best way possible. Young master, for that freelance martial artist, should we not touch him for now? He Bao asked again. Why should we not? Could it be that we don't think he has spread enough rumors? Must we let him bite me in front of my face and accuse me of plotting against the Qin clan? Luo Ting was extremely annoyed. He Bao gave a helpless sigh. Now, Murong Su is at the Ironwood State City. I am worried that she has elite warriors next to her. If she knows that we are secretly dealing with that freelance martial artist, everything will be exposed. By that time, not to mention young master, the entire heavenly Luo Taoist sect will fall into an awkward situation. It's a small matter to offend the human countries and those freelance martial artists. If we offend the heavenly Emperor Qin clan, or even the current heavenly emperor, or let the other forbidden spiritual zones find our weakness, it will not be easy to handle. Luo Ting felt extremely depressed as he waved his hand. He Bao, do as you see fit. We will wait until that slut has left the Ironwood State City. No need to wait for her to leave the Ironwood State City. I will test the waters myself. If there are elite warriors protecting her in secret, I will know when I try. If there are none, everything will be easy. Luo Ting nodded. Okay, He Bao, this time you must do a good job. I don't want my name to appear in the discussion of those freelance martial artists. Inwardly, He Bao felt uncomfortable. From beginning to end, He had done everything beautifully and there had never been any loopholes. Why did those freelance martial artists suddenly dig out such important information? In the end, whether it was a baseless guess or some evidence, He Bao could not figure it out. At least, he was certain that it was not him that had made a mistake. However, He Bao knew clearly that he was only a dog trained by the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. He would only have a future if he worked hard for the sect without complaint. Instantly, he bowed to Luo Ting and left silently. On the other hand, after about 10 days of battle in Qin Wushuang, all the freelance martial artists that had entered the dispersed praying mountain had died. For 3 days, not a single freelance martial artist had entered the dispersed praying mountain. When Murong Su attempted to enter the Xian Yuan mound from the human countries, Hissing Sky Phoenix had discovered the figure of Murong Su immediately. When he asked for instructions from Qin Wushuang, of course, Qin Wushuang did not set up any obstacles and did not disturb him. He allowed Murong Su to pass through easily. This was also the reason why He Bao was able to see Murong Su at the Ironwood State City. In these 3 days, Qin Wushuang took turns to summon the 5 great spiritual beasts back into the sealed scroll. He started to explore the usage of the genuine spiritual post and started to pour spiritual qi into that sealed scroll. As Qin Wushuang had expected, indeed, he had an abundance of crystal stones. Even if 12 spiritual beasts had come out together, he could provide them with spiritual qi 3 times without holding back. After he had finished replenishing the 5 great spiritual beasts, Qin Wushuang decided to continue moving forward. He arrived at the border between the dispersed praying mountain and the Xian Yuan mound. As he pushed forward the defensive line step by step, the further they were from the human countries, the further away they would be from danger. Currently, Yinglong had been sent out by Qin Wushuang to scout for information. Naturally, the information Luo Ting and He Bao had heard at the Ironwood State City was Yinglong's work. In the previous dozen days, Qin Wushuang was only defending passively. Then, sending out Yinglong to spread the news was the first step of Qin Wushuang's counterattack. Heavenly Luo Taoist sect. As soon as Qin Wushuang thought of these 4 words, he could not help but feel angry. The first time he had entered the Xian Yuan mound, it was because of this heavenly Luo Taoist sect's assassination order that made each step difficult for him. Now, this Luo Ting had used such a vicious scheme to deal with Qin Wushuang. Currently, Qin Wushuang only had one thought, and that was to counterattack without any hesitation. The first shot of his counterattack would be from Luo Ting's body. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 504. At the border of the dispersed praying mountain, a figure flew rapidly from the direction of the Xian Yuan mound. Hissing Sky Phoenix saw this person's figure from afar. Master, Yinglong is back. Hissing Sky Phoenix's eyes lit up as he said. Indeed, Yinglong arrived from the sky and stopped at the slope where Qin Wushuang and the others were standing. Currently, Yinglong's mind and body had been completely controlled by the venomous insect. He had become a puppet. It's my honor to meet you, Master. Qin Wushuang said lightly. Get up, you've been gone for 3 days, how is the situation? Yinglong said. Miss Mu Rong has already arrived at the Ironwood State City. I have already taken care of the matter you asked me to do. Besides, apparently those freelance martial artists also believed my words. Now, everyone in the entire Ironwood State City is talking about this matter. Even if everyone did not get any evidence, they are already suspicious. Well done. Qin Wushuang nodded. Before he had finished speaking, suddenly, Mole crawled out from the ground. Master, someone is following us. As soon as Yinglong heard these words, beads of sweat poured down. He had never thought that he would be followed all the way here. I deserve to die. Yinglong felt extremely ashamed. Qin Wushuang was rather calm. He waved his hand and asked Mole, "How many people? How strong are they?" "Master, there is only one person and I cannot figure out his strength. However, he should be at the profound void martial stage." Qin Wushuang said to Ying Long, "Get up, this matter has nothing to do with you. When an elite warrior at the profound void martial stage followed you, he did not fly, but used the underground technique. His strength is far above yours. This is not your fault." Ying Long stood up gratefully and retreated to the side with a nod. Qin Wushuang said, "Okay, continue to follow him. We will make a plan when he enters our defensive perimeter." Mole accepted the order and left. In a moment, Mole stuck his head out again. "Master, that guy is already here and has entered our perimeter. Alright, precious pig, you go and meet that guy." Qin Wushuang knew that sending pure altar precious pig was the most appropriate choice in this situation. Sure enough, the pure altar precious pig set out and arrived at an open space. The fat on its body trembled continuously. Suddenly, it let out a loud cry and stomped its two legs. With this stomp, the ground immediately cracked like a spider web. The entire earth vein was completely crushed by the pure altar precious pig's stomp. The person who was rushing underground suddenly felt the ground tremble. A powerful earth attribute fluctuation was rapidly fluctuating in the earth vein. This earth vein fluctuation was like a surging wave. Its momentum was very fierce, and it immediately stopped him from moving forward. Not daring to be careless in the slightest, he quickly protected his vitals and crawled out of the ground. Instead, he saw a spirit beast the size of a mountain standing in front of him. Raising his head again, he saw a handsome young man standing on the hillside in the distance. His arms were folded across his chest as he stood on the hillside, looking over in a relaxed manner. And the person he was tracking was standing behind this young man. As soon as Qin Wushuang saw this person, instantly, he felt a strange sense of familiarity. Only, he could not remember who this person was. This person was dressed in black clothes and looked over with vigilance. He said lightly, "Who are you people? It was you who set up an ambush at the dispersed praying mountain to stop the passing martial artists, right?" As soon as this person spoke, Qin Wushuang immediately recognized him. At the same time, the anger inside Qin Wushuang's heart had been ignited. Indeed, this person was Luo Ting's subordinate. He remembered that Luo Ting had called him Black Panther. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not remember this person's voice wrongly. And from his temperament, Qin Wushuang also felt he was somewhat familiar. That day at the Wild Flame Cliff, although Qin Wushuang did not see this Black Panther directly, Qin Wushuang would never forget his temperament and voice. "Do you know this person?" Qin Wushuang turned to ask Ying Long. After a moment of recognition, Ying Long shook his head. "I don't know him." Qin Wushuang nodded lightly and said with a clear voice, "You swaggered and tracked my subordinate here, what intentions do you have?" That Black Panther said with a cold sneer, "Your subordinate?" This person spread rumors at the Ironwood State City. As freelance martial artists, we suspected that he had ulterior motives. Thus, we chased after him. This way, it seems that all the schemes, including everything at the dispersed praying mountain, were all arranged by you. Qin Wushuang kept sneering and sized Black Panther up with a mocking look. "Freelance martial artist? Mister, do you not blush when you say these words? You dare to call yourself a freelance martial artist?" Inwardly, Black Panther trembled. This young man did not seem to have a high level of strength, yet why were his eyes so sharp? Especially his words, it sounded like there were some hidden meanings? Could it be? Immediately, Black Panther told himself that he must not lose his footing. At the moment, he said lightly, "Young man, in the end, what intentions do you have by creating those senseless killings at the dispersed praying mountain? Do you know that by doing this, you are becoming enemies with all the freelance martial artists in the Xian Yuan Mound? Although Qin Wushuang knew that this Black Panther was deliberately using words to trick him and make him admit that he was the one who had done the things at the dispersed praying mountain. However, Qin Wushuang did not plan to deny it. Again, a trace of ridicule emerged from the corner of his mouth. "Mister, I have seen many people who pretend to be confused despite knowing the truth. However, it's my first time seeing someone like you who keeps pretending to be confused. Could it be that you don't know better than me that the true enemy of all the freelance martial artists in the Xian Yuan Mound is not me, but you?" These words almost made Black Panther twitch on the spot. Apparently, these two consecutive words were pointing to something. And this pointing seemed to indicate that he had seen through his and Luo Ting's scheme. When he thought about the news that this person's subordinate had spread at the Ironwood State City, suddenly Black Panther's entire body felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Suddenly, he remembered. Could it be that this person had truly seen through my and young master's scheme? Or else, how could his subordinate have described it so vividly at the Ironwood State City as if he had participated in everything himself? When he thought here, Black Panther's entire body felt a wave of disgust as he said with a cold voice, "Don't play tricks here. You have killed so many freelance martial artists, the elite warriors of the freelance martial artists world of the Xian Yuan Mound will not let this matter go." Qin Wushuang laughed. "Good, mister. Then tell me, where have the most freelance martial artists of the Xian Yuan Mound gathered? I was just about to let them go." Pure Altar Precious Pig shook his fat body and cried out, "Master, don't talk too much with this guy, let me swallow him and be done with it." Qin Wushuang waved his hand and motioned to let Precious Pig step back. Naturally, Pure Altar Precious Pig did not dare to resist Qin Wushuang. He mumbled and stepped back. Then, he glared at Black Panther with his two bell-sized eyes and appeared ferocious. Black Panther sucked in a breath of cold air. How could he not see that this fat pig was actually a spirit beast with an extremely strong aura? The strength of the aura was so strong that it made even an experienced and knowledgeable profound void stage expert like Black Panther feel waves of pressure. And what he had seen was only the tip of the iceberg of the other party's strength. Black Panther clearly sensed that around this young man, there were a few hidden existences that had yet to show themselves. However, they were using their aura to suppress him. Finally, Black Panther understood why the other party was able to carry out the slaughter at the dispersed praying mountain with such ease. With such a combination of strength, even in the Xian Yuan Mound, they were considered to have exceptional strength. Who is this person? Who is this person? Black Panther's head was full of questions. Each of the young talents of the first-rate powerhouses of the Xian Yuan Mound flashed through his mind and were rejected one by one. Until he thought about the heavenly Emperor Qin clan, suddenly, a name popped out from Black Panther's head. At this moment, the expression of Black Panther changed abruptly. It seemed that his spirit had suddenly become clear as he remembered who this person was. You. Black Panther stared at Qin Wushuang with a highly vigilant gaze. Raging fire seemed to be shooting out from his eyes. "You are smart, it seems that you have already guessed who I am." Suddenly, Qin Wushuang changed his tone, however. "A long time before you knew who I was, I already knew who you were. Therefore, in the end, you will lose miserably in this game." Black Panther's face was ashen as he looked at Qin Wushuang. Disbelief filled his eyes. He could not understand how this Qin Wushuang had seen through all of this. Could it be that he had clairvoyant eyes and ears? Could it be that he could hear the thoughts of others from a few 100,000 miles away? How was this possible? Even an elite warrior of the Supreme Tao would not have such powerful divine skills. Black Panther. Qin Wushuang's tone did not have a trace of human emotion. He said the name of Black Panther. As soon as he said the two words Black Panther, the last line of defense in Black Panther's mind had completely collapsed. Qin Wushuang made a hand gesture and hissing sky phoenix and one-horn mystical horse immediately came out from the dark. They formed a T-shape with pure altar-precious pig and surrounded Black Panther in the center. Qin Wushuang said with a leisurely tone, "This is called not taking the road to heaven, but barging into hell. Tell me, how do you want to die?" Black Panther looked around and knew that none of these three enemies would lose to him. In a one-on-one battle, he would not have any problems escaping. In a one-on-two battle, whether he could escape or not would depend on his performance. In a one-on-three battle, the hope of escaping would be next to none. Not to mention, Black Panther could vividly feel that there were elite warriors who were ready to make trouble underground. Even if he wanted to escape through the underground, certainly the tunnel would be locked. Perhaps once he went underground, he would be seeking his own death instead. Black Panther's face was pale, knowing that he had fallen into the enemy's trap this time. With a pale face, he murmured, "Are you really that Qin Wushuang?" Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. "Why? You and Luo Ting wanted to find me wholeheartedly. Now that I'm right in front of you, you can't recognize me?" Black Panther's face was pale as he sighed. "I really can't imagine how you did it. This is simply impossible. This plan, in the process of me implementing it, there was no flaw at all. How can you see through it? How is that possible?" Qin Wushuang sneered. "Yes, this plan of yours is vicious enough, ruthless enough. But speaking of which, you don't seem to believe that I can see through this plot. It's all destined by fate. It's not that you're not perfect, nor is it that there's a flaw somewhere. All these were told to me personally through your mouth." "I told you personally?" Black Panther's face was filled with an absurd smile, thinking that Qin Wushuang was deliberately making fun of him, but his smile became even more bitter. He kept shaking his head. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 505. Qin Wushuang still looked indifferent. Regardless of whether Black Panther believed it or not, what he said was the truth. "Qin Wushuang, I underestimated you. I underestimated you." Black Panther was heartbroken. He looked at the three opponents who had sealed off all his escape routes and struggled in his heart. "At most, I'll fight to the death. As long as I get out of this circle, I'll escape even if I'm seriously injured. Or else, for sure, this Qin Wushuang would not have let me die so easily. For sure, he would torture me in every possible way. Black Panther, if you're planning to escape, I suggest you give up. Even if you can fly, you won't be able to escape today. Unless you're strong enough to overwhelm my subordinate." Black Panther looked at the pure altar-precious pig, then looked at one-horn mystical horse and the hissing sky phoenix hovering in the air. Any one of them was enough to give him a headache. "Qin Wushuang, I know that I've lost today. But if you want to kill me, you'll have to pay a price." Black Panther's tone was also very strong. He looked like a cornered beast that was putting up a fight. "Price?" Qin Wushuang laughed. "If I want to kill you, I can do it with a single thought. Why would I need to pay a price? Do you think you have any trump cards that can make us pay a price? Black Panther, I'm telling you so much here, not because you're eloquent, nor because I like to talk nonsense. The reason why I haven't made a move yet is because I feel that death isn't the only option for you." Black Panther's body trembled. He looked at Qin Wushuang suspiciously and asked, "What do you mean?" "What do I mean? You're so smart, why don't you take a guess?" "You want me to betray my master?" Black Panther sneered. "Do you have any other choice? If you do, tell me." Qin Wushuang asked teasingly. Black Panther thought for a while and said, "Even if I agree, how can you trust me?" "It doesn't matter if I don't trust you. I naturally have a way to make you submit to me," Qin Wushuang said leisurely. The Black Panther looked at the three spirit beasts. You want to use the method of controlling spirit beasts to control me? Let me remind you that humans are unable to sign such a contract. No. Qin Wushuang smiled leisurely. Who said I was going to sign a contract with you? I'm just asking you, do you have any other choice? Black Panther's face was ashen. He stared blankly for a while before he asked unwillingly, You have to tell me, how did you figure out my plan? Didn't I tell you? You told me yourself. Of course, Qin Wushuang wouldn't tell Black Panther the truth now. He just said something so mysterious that Black Panther couldn't figure it out. I told you? Ha ha, you are not going to say that I told you in your dreams, right? Black Panther's laughter was full of bitterness as he said with a sense of loss, However, to speak the truth, Qin Wushuang, from beginning to end, I did not wish to go against you. I did not wish for young Master Luo Ting to go against you. Of course, it's not because I'm afraid of you. It's because the price to do so is too great. However, that arrogant young man did not listen to my advice. Black Panther, I didn't ask you to speak such nonsense. You are only Luo Ting's dog. I don't care what you did with him in the past. I will only ask you one thing, are you willing to die, or follow me and turn against the heavenly Luo Taoist sect? Instantly, Black Panther's expression froze. Then, he looked at Qin Wushuang and said with a mocking smile, Are you crazy? Turn against the heavenly Luo Taoist sect? Although you have good strength now, and these contractual spiritual beasts also have considerable strength. However, do you think that with your little strength you can shake the giant mountain that is the heavenly Luo Taoist sect? Ha ha ha, it's laughable that you are overestimating yourself. Qin Wushuang examined Black Panther with a gaze as if he was looking at a dead person. He said lightly, This way, you are willing to be buried with the heavenly Luo Taoist sect? It's all right, even if that's the case, I will satisfy you. Furthermore, I guarantee that I will definitely not let you be alone on the road to the Yellow Springs for too long. Luo Ting, it won't be long before he follows you here. Immediately, Black Panther narrowed his eyes into a line and looked at Qin Wushuang with full alertness. Qin, even if you kill me today, I will still say the same thing. You will not be able to go against the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Even if I follow you, I will not be able to do it. Who told you that I only have these trump cards? Pure Altar Precious Pig and Hissing Sky Phoenix laughed recklessly. If all of our master's trump cards are taken out, it's enough to flatten the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Is the heavenly Luo Taoist sect one of the heavenly Emperor Eight Gates? Stunned, Black Panther looked at Qin Wushuang with a puzzled look. Qin Wushuang said solemnly, Black Panther, this is your last chance. Are you willing to die or follow me? If you still do not answer my next question directly, you will not have the chance to answer any questions in your lifetime. After he had finished speaking, Pure Altar Precious Pig and the other two spiritual beasts at the profound void martial stage became restless and prepared to attack Black Panther from all sides. A complicated expression flashed across Black Panther's eyes. He must say that at the crucial moment of life and death, all of his moral integrity appeared incredibly weak. It was not because he did not have moral integrity, nor was it because he was greedy for life and was afraid of death. He was thinking about how much true treatment he had received since he had joined the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Before Luo Ting, Black Panther had come and gone as he wished. That Luo Ting had not truly treated him as a trusted aide. Indeed, he had treated him as a dog. Was it worth it to serve such master? Black Panther had never doubted that serving the heavenly Luo Taoist sect would allow him, a freelance martial artist, to have a lot of protection. However, at the same time, the various encounters he had encountered at the heavenly Luo Taoist sect did not make him feel any respect. It also did not make him feel the need to die for his loyalty. To be buried with the heavenly Luo Taoist sect? At this crucial moment, Black Panther was not reconciled. When he thought here, his last line of defense had completely collapsed as he gave a long sigh. What do you want me to do? Without a doubt, these words meant that he had given in. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly and made a hand gesture. Finally, Pure Altar Precious Pig and the others had slightly reduced their power to allow Black Panther to reply with ease. It's simple, I want you to continue to approach Luo Ting and return to his side. Just pretend that nothing had happened here. You must not reveal any flaws. Only to be an inside man? Black Panther gave a long sigh. No, being an inside man is only the first step. I must admit that your vicious plan had put me in a passive position. I need you to announce Luo Ting's scheme to the world when it's necessary. Let everyone know that this was Luo Ting's despicable method to vent his personal anger against me, Qin Wushuang. Only in this way, I can make those fearless freelance martial artists give up on the thought of heading to the human countries. Or else, if this continues, it will always be a trouble in the future. Qin Wushuang was already mature when considering this matter. He knew that killing Luo Ting and Black Panther would not work for now. Only by revealing the inside story to the world, it would have the real effect. Black Panther nodded slowly. I must admit that Luo Ting was not smart to go against you. It was an extremely stupid choice. Okay, exactly what do you want me to do? Black Panther raised his head and asked. First, return to Luo Ting's side. Wherever you go, you will leak your whereabouts. Let me know your whereabouts without spending any effort. This should not be a problem, right? No problem. Since Black Panther had made up his mind, naturally it would not be a problem. Yes, when it's necessary, you must stand out and expose Luo Ting. That way, I can kill Luo Ting justifiably. Qin Wushuang said coldly. Kill Luo Ting? Inwardly, Black Panther trembled as he said in a low voice, You must know that it's not an easy task to kill Luo Ting. That Luo Ting also has some trump cards. Killing him is not as simple as you think. Let's put it this way, with your current cards, if it was Luo Ting who had barged in today, most likely you would not have been able to keep him. Is that so? We will only know after we try. Regarding killing him, you don't need to worry. I don't need to borrow your strength. You only need to complete the task I've given you, and you will have completed your task. Do your job, and don't worry about the rest. Black Panther nodded. Okay, you are also a smart person. I like to deal with smart people. To speak the truth, I also like to work for smart people. Although I don't know if your words a moment ago were exaggerated, to speak the truth, if you truly have the power to flatten the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, I am willing to watch with pleasure. You know, working for a smart master is 10 times better than working for a master who thinks he is smart, but is in fact extremely stupid. If you want to smear Luo Ting's name before me, then don't bother. Whether Luo Ting is extremely stupid, I have my own judgment. Black Panther gave a long sigh and said again, Don't blame me for talking too much. Before you are prepared to deal with the entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect, even if you have the power, it's best not to kill Luo Ting. Even if you kill any of the elders of the sect, do not touch Luo Ting. The heavenly Luo Daoist sect is my target. However, Luo Ting is my #1 target. I know that Luo Ting is the genius of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect and the successor. If I kill him, it means that I will bear the pursuit of the entire sect and face their torrential anger. But what about it? Qin Wushuang said coldly. When he stepped out and secretly plotted to deal with my family and the sect, it was destined that either he would succeed, or he would die. There is no third possibility, Qin Wushuang said with a determined tone. He clapped his hand and Moon Palace jade hair crawled out from the ground. He said with a chuckle, Master, what orders do you have? Qin Wushuang said to Black Panther. To show your sincerity, next, I will make some marks on your body to test your loyalty. If you are determined to follow me, do not resist. It is because if you resist, it will make me feel that you have changed your mind. In that case, they will use all their power to kill you." Black Panther gave a long sigh. He knew that it would not be easy to surrender. It would also not allow him to return to Luo Ting's side without suffering any losses. However, he had no other choice. Moon Palace Jade Hair shot a wave of serene blue light into Black Panther's forehead. All of his methods were the same as when he had controlled Ing Long. Black Panther only felt that when this blue light had shot into his forehead, a wave of cold air had entered his dantian and merged with his primordial spirit. He didn't know that the seed of this venomous insect had been quietly planted. It had firmly controlled the rope of his fate in the hands of Qin Wushuang. If he wanted him to live, he would live. If he wanted him to die, he would die. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 506. Black Panther only felt his entire body shivering uncontrollably. Next, his consciousness seemed to become blurry, as if he had suddenly entered a miraculous chaotic world. Of course, this state only lasted for an instant. After a moment, when Black Panther regained his consciousness, the entire situation had changed. In his consciousness, an absolute sense of loyalty had been deeply implanted. This had completely reversed Black Panther's consciousness. At this moment, in Black Panther's eyes, there was no place for Luo Ting. "Black Panther, do you know what to do?" "Yes, Master wants me to return to Luo Ting. When the time is right, I will expose him. As for when the time is right, you should know since you participated in the entire matter, right?" Qin Wushuang asked lightly. "I understand. Work hard, one day I will let you know. The choice you made today is not a disaster, but the smartest choice you've made in your entire life." Black Panther's body trembled slightly. Then, he nodded heavily and turned to leave. "Congratulations, Master, you have gained another capable subordinate," Moon Palace Jade Hair said with a flattering smile. "Now is not the time to congratulate. Only when this card is fully utilized will it be the time to congratulate. Jade Hair, tell everyone to prepare to depart in 3 days. Depart where to?" Moon Palace Jade Hair was also somewhat confused. To the Ironwood State City. Qin Wushuang's next target was the Ironwood State City. He knew that those freelance martial artists were already scared out of their wits, unless they were elite warriors at the Perfect Void martial stage. Or else, even those at the Profound Void martial stage would not dare to act rashly. After all, in the half a month of fighting at the dispersed Praying Mountain, Qin Wushuang had caused a few elite warriors at the Profound Void martial stage to lose their lives. Naturally, the elite warriors at the Profound Void martial stage cherished their lives and would not take the risk. Naturally, Qin Wushuang had his own plans for the 3 days later. 3 days of time was enough for Black Panther to do a lot of things and report back a lot of information. On the other hand, when Black Panther returned to the Ironwood State City, the sky had already darkened. Luo Ting appeared to be somewhat anxious. Seeing Black Panther return, he angrily rebuked, "Where have you been?" Black Panther said cautiously, "Young master, I first went to check on Miss Murong's whereabouts, and then I made sure that there were no experts protecting Miss Murong. Only then did I come back to deal with the rogue cultivator who spread rumors about you. Who would have known that the fellow was extremely cunning and fled upon hearing the news. I saw that he was heading towards the direction of the dispersed Praying Mountain. Thus, I followed him to see what was going on." "Then you've been there for so long, have you actually seen anything?" Luo Ting asked unhappily. Black Panther shook his head. "When I chased him to the border of the dispersed Praying Mountain, I saw that he seemed to want to lure me over. I suspected that there was a trap and did not continue to follow him." Luo Ting's heart was filled with anger. So, you have been following us for so long, but it was ultimately useless, right? Young master, at least we can confirm that the person who spread the rumors to slander you is most likely an accomplice of those people who attacked you at the dispersed praying mountain. What's the use of confirming this? Luo Ting's temper became more and more irritable. If you confirm this, the result will only be worse. Why would the other party set up an ambush there? Why would they send people to spread the rumors? Black Panther, tell me the answer. This is what you did. You did not do it cleanly and leaked the information. Otherwise, without any evidence, how could they use my name, Luo Ting's name? Black Panther gave a long sigh. Currently, he was no longer trembling with fear when facing Luo Ting like before. Now, with a different standpoint, he looked at Luo Ting as if he was looking at an idiot. Thus, the more irritable and uncontrollable Luo Ting appeared, the more he felt relieved. However, he still had to defend himself verbally. Young master, I've already said it many times. If the information was leaked, it was definitely not because of me. Is there a problem with your segment? Then could it be that I'm the one with the problem? I know my business the best. Ever since I left the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, I did not meet with anyone, and it's impossible for me to leak the secret. For this matter, besides you, it's me. Those who were involved in this matter have all been killed by you to silence them. Tell me, if the problem does not lie with you, then who? Black Panther was deeply speechless. At this moment, this Luo Ting was still pushing the blame. Even if Black Panther had not been controlled by Qin Wushuang, surely he would feel extremely depressed when he heard Luo Ting's word. Now, of course, he would not argue with Luo Ting. Instead, he said, Master, whether it's the truth or not, the truth will come to light. I will go check on Miss Mu Rong's movements. I already sent people to contact Mu Rong Qianji using special method. Unless he is deliberately hiding, or else, he will come. Since the situation had developed to this point, Luo Ting had no other way. Since he could not break through the dispersed praying mountain, he must think of a way. Or else, in the end, his plan would not succeed. For Murong Su's side, he could only wait for the news. In other words, he could not do anything on either side. He could only wait at the same place. This made the proud and arrogant Luo Ting feel extremely frustrated. Inside one of the taverns in the Ironwood State City, Little Bamboo was fetching hot water to help Murong Su wash his face and rinse his mouth. Then, she fetched another basin of hot water to wash Murong Su's feet. While Little Bamboo was busy, she asked, Miss, do you think the news we heard at the Freelance Martial Artist Union is credible? Murong Su revealed a somewhat worried expression as he stared blankly at the candlelight in the room. He seemed to be thinking about something and did not pay any attention to Little Bamboo's words. Little Bamboo mumbled, Miss, what are you thinking about? She's ignoring Xiao Zhu. Suddenly, Murong Su said, Little Bamboo, do you remember when we met young Master Qin at the Sky-Breaking City, when he mentioned the matter of the Xian Yuan Mound freelance martial artists invading the human countries? He did not finish his words? Little Bamboo thought for a moment and mumbled, I remember he seemed to have bypassed the topic and did not seem to be willing to talk about this matter in depth. Miss, what's wrong? Did you discover something wrong? Murong Su said, I guess he already knew at that time that Luo Ting was the mastermind behind the entire matter. However, it was inconvenient for him to speak about it before us. What's inconvenient about it? Little Bamboo did not think it was a big deal. If it was me and I knew it was Luo Ting who did it, I would have exposed him on the spot. You are you, he is him. Surely young Master Qin felt that since Luo Ting and I had that engagement, he would not be upright if he were to speak ill of Luo Ting before us. For someone as graceful as young Master Qin, certainly he would not talk about others behind their back. Most likely, he would feel disdain to point out Luo Ting. When Little Bamboo heard up to this point, She also put down the work at hand and thought seriously for a moment. Then, she nodded. Miss, you don't say it. If you say it this way, it does make sense. Could it be that Luo Ting was the one behind the entire matter? Apparently, young Master Qin had already grasped this matter. This time, he had chosen to face those freelance martial artists alone at the dispersed praying mountain. Apparently, he had already planned it. Little Bamboo said with some astonishment. In fact, this young Master Qin is also exceptional. He has improved rapidly. I remember that in less than 2 years, when he was facing Luo Yun of the Heavenly Luo Taoist sect, he was only an ordinary martial artist at the refined void martial stage. The entire Stargaze Palace was helpless against him. Now, he could face all those freelance martial artists alone at the dispersed praying mountain. Miss, young Master Qin is truly admirable. A trace of gratified color flashed across Murong Su's starry eyes as she gave a long sigh. Perhaps in these 2 years young Master Qin had another fortuitous opportunity. Just like when he was in the human countries, ever since he had stepped onto the path of martial arts, it seems that people have gotten used to the surprises he brings. Little Bamboo said with a chuckle, Miss, I heard that there is a type of genius that is truly blessed by the gods. Do you think this young Master Qin is this type? I hope so. There was a trace of expectation in Murong Su's tone, and more than that, she sighed. The responsibility on his shoulders is too heavy. If one day, young Master Qin is able to help the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan out of their predicament, then he will be another legend of the Xian Yuan Mound. Ha ha, to turn the tide. He is a legendary hero since ancient times. Little Bamboo pursed her lips and smiled. Miss, can you wait until that time to not get married? Murong Su did not know whether to laugh or cry. She scolded with a smile. Girl, what does this have to do with me getting married? Yes, yes. Little Bamboo said seriously. I know that if you don't like a man, you will never get married. Murong Su said with a smile. Sly girl, I am too lazy to talk to you. As soon as she had finished speaking, suddenly, the expression on Murong Su's face changed slightly. She made a hand gesture to Little Bamboo and asked her to hide behind her. Almost at the same time, a gentle breeze swept over from the windowsill. A voice emerged from nowhere. Miss Murong, who are you? Murong Su was not afraid as she asked calmly. Don't ask me who I am, I will only tell you that Luo Ting already knows about your whereabouts. He already sent someone to inform your father and forced him to take you back to the floating snow house. If you don't want to get married to that guy Luo Ting, then tomorrow morning, leave this place as soon as possible. Go as far as you can. Murong Su's heart sank. Luo Ting is in the Ironwood State City? That voice said coldly. Don't ask so much, it will not benefit you if you know too much. However, Murong Su was extremely persistent as she asked persistently. Answer me, is Luo Ting in the Ironwood State City or not? To Murong Su, this question was more important than anything else. Ah, what good will it do you to know these things? That voice gave a desolate sigh. This way, that piece of news from the Freelance Martial Artist Union was not created without wind, right? Murong Su continued to ask. Miss Murong, even if you know the truth, what about it? Can you deal with Luo Ting? Can you find the evidence to expose him? That's right, behind the whole thing, it was a scheme that Luo Ting came up with to deal with Qin Wushuang. However, at the moment, there is only one person who can expose this scheme. But it is definitely not you. After saying this, the voice did not waste any more time as it instructed. If you don't want to be taken back to the floating snow house and be forced to carry out the marriage agreement, leave quickly. After saying this, the voice drifted away like the wind. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 507. This voice sounded like a ghost. Just when Murong-su thought he had left completely, suddenly, she heard another wave of subtle voice. If Miss Murong does not believe me, you can look out the window tomorrow morning. By that time, everything will be clear. Murong-su felt disappointed and frustrated. This sudden change had caused her to fall into a state of hesitation. Initially, she was heading to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain to meet the Heavenly Emperor and report what had happened at the dispersed Praying Mountain. She was going to expose these freelance martial artists who had violated the agreement and crossed the border in large group. However, this voice had told her that Luo Ting already knew her whereabouts. He was using this to threaten her father. If she continued to move forward, most likely she would meet her father on the way. In that case, it would put her father in a dilemma. However, if she did not do anything halfway, the fate of the human countries would become a hidden danger, and Qin Wushuang's family and sect would bear the brunt. This was something that Murong-su did not wish to see. "Miss, is that Luo Ting really this bad?" Little Bamboo's voice was much lower than before. Her pair of eyes looked around and apparently, she was frightened as if she was afraid that Luo Ting would suddenly come out from the corner. No wonder Murong-su was a daughter of a wealthy family. She was used to seeing big scenes. Although she was hesitant inwardly, she did not lose her composure. She only thought, "Who is the person that warned me? He said that Luo Ting is at the Ironwood State City. I wonder if it's true?" However, that voice had spoken with a serious tone and claimed that she would see the truth tomorrow morning. Since this was the case, Murong-su did not think too much about it and said to Little Bamboo, "Little Bamboo, don't worry, this person does not have bad intentions. It seems that from the moment we entered the Ironwood State City, this person had noticed us." However, Little Bamboo said, "Miss, you have always lived in seclusion at the floating snow house. There aren't many people who know you. This person knows that you are Miss Murong, for sure he knows you. Could he be young Master Qin's subordinate?" Murong-su shook her head. "Definitely not. If it's young Master Qin, he would not send his subordinates to do this. It's not his style." "That's right. Young Master Qin is very upright. It's not like he's shameful. If he really wanted to tell young Miss about this, he would definitely reveal his identity." When Xiao Zhu said this, she suddenly said, "Miss, do you think it could be Master's confidant who has been secretly protecting us?" Murong-su laughed involuntarily. "Girl, you're really indulging in fantasy. Then who could it be?" Xiao Zhu rested her chin on her hand as she muttered to herself with a frown on her face. Murong-su said, "Since that man said tomorrow morning, we can see what's going on. Could it be that he could predict that Luo Ting would definitely pass by here tomorrow? If that was the case, this person's actions were even stranger. The only person who would know of Luo Ting's whereabouts should be someone close to him." Xiao Zhu was even more confused. She sighed and said, "Miss, don't think about it anymore, my head is buzzing. Let's see the results tomorrow morning. Lady, if all this is true, then are you still going to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain?" This was a realistic question. However, there was not a trace of hesitation on Murong-su's face. She looked at the boundless night sky with determination and said with a tone that left no room for doubt, "Yes, we must go to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain." Xiao Zhu also said, "Yes, Miss, I feel that since we've decided, we must do it. Ha, Miss, in fact, I rather hope that Luo Ting is the one who planned this matter." Murong-su was stunned. If Luo Ting is the one who planned this, then even if he does not die, he would lose a layer of skin. By that time, most likely he would become the public enemy of the freelance martial artist world. The best result would be that the Heavenly Emperor would become furious and imprison him in the sinful hell of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. The sinful hell of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain was a place that specialized in imprisoning serious criminals. Since Xiao Zhu, a little girl without any scheming mind, held such a huge grudge against Luo Ting. Clearly she hated him to the extreme. Of course, the person who had come to inform Murong Su was Black Panther. Black Panther had never thought that a day ago. He was still advising Murong Su on how to deal with Murong Su. A day later, he had no choice but to inform Murong Su. Of course, the change in attitude was greatly related to the change in his position. Since he no longer worked for Luo Ting, of course he would not allow Murong Su to fall into Luo Ting's evil claws. This was also Black Panther's way of showing his loyalty to Qin Wushuang. When he returned to Luo Ting's side, Luo Ting asked when he saw Black Panther had returned. "What, is there any movement over there?" Black Panther frowned and said, "Young master, the current situation is extremely difficult. Around the place where Miss Mu Rong lives, there are a few unknown elite warriors. I am worried that these unknown people are related to those people at the dispersed praying mountain." Up until now, Luo Ting had not heard any good news. He could not help but grit his teeth with hatred. "Black Panther, can't you bring a slightly more encouraging news?" Black Panther pretended to speak with a fearful tone. "Young master, I think that now is not the time to beat the grass and scare the snake," Luo Ting said while gritting his teeth. "Not the time to beat the grass and scare the snake. Must we wait for that B***tch to slip away before we go find her? Black Panther, if you let this B***tch escape from our sight, then do as you see fit," Black Panther said helplessly. "Young master, I have already done my best if you are still worried. Tomorrow morning, you can go check it out yourself," Luo Ting said angrily. "I already said earlier that I would go, and you made all sorts of excuses. Now, you want me to go check it out myself. Just how did you do your job? Since young master has doubts about this subordinate's ability, what else can this subordinate say? It would be most reassuring for young master to go check it out yourself." Luo Ting looked at Black Panther coldly. His eyes were filled with coldness. Apparently, he was extremely dissatisfied with Black Panther's rebuttal. However, Black Panther was incomparably calm. He shouted in his heart, "Brat, if you want to fall out with me, then go ahead. If you fall out with me, then I will take this opportunity to announce your conspiracy to the world." The coldness in Luo Ting's eyes slowly faded away after a long while. Waving his hand, he shouted, "You can leave, I want to be alone for a while." Black Panther retreated somewhat disappointedly. He was actually waiting for Luo Ting to explode. Only by finding a good point of conflict and angering Luo Ting could he create the best opportunity to do so. Black Panther's disappointment towards Luo Ting had reached the peak. He did not want to be entangled with Luo Ting for even a minute. If possible, he hoped that Qin Wushuang would immediately take action and eliminate this self-righteous fellow. Out of sight, out of mind. During this period of time, he had enough of Luo Ting's face. Early the next morning, Black Panther came to Luo Ting's door. "Young master, if you want to go check it out yourself, now is the best time. Otherwise, she would have left the city," Black Panther reminded. Luo Ting said angrily, "I don't need you to remind me, I know what to do. You should think of a way to get rid of those thorns in the dispersed praying mountain." When he said here, suddenly, Luo Ting remembered that he did not even know where Murong Su was staying. Instantly, he shouted again, "Get ready, lead the way!" Everything was within Black Panther's calculations. After they left the Freelance Martial Artist Union, Black Panther took Luo Ting and walked towards the inn where Murong Su was staying. Since dawn, Murong Su had been guarding by the window. When Black Panther appeared on the long street with Luo Ting, Murong Su trembled slightly and immediately hid behind the window. She leaned against the wall and started to breathe rapidly. A trace of disgust could not help but flash across her eyes. That was definitely Luo Ting. She would not be mistaken. Luo Ting's unique arrogant temperament and his self-righteous attitude could not be imitated by others. "Missy," Little Bamboo was about to speak. However, Murong Su made a hand gesture to motion her to not make a sound. On the long street, Black Panther took Luo Ting and stopped at the door of an inn on the opposite street. After Black Panther had walked in, he walked out and said a few words to Luo Ting with a somewhat solemn expression. Luo Ting's expression changed drastically. She left. Black Panther said with frustration. Yes, I asked, she just left. Young master, don't worry, I sent people to keep an eye on her. Wherever she goes, she will not leave our sight. Furious, Luo Ting glared at Black Panther. He walked into that inn and asked the waiter, You have 2 young girls staying at your inn? Yes, sir. Do you know those 2 Missy? TSK, those 2 Missy. We have never seen girls with such good looks at the orderly mountain prefecture. Luo Ting glared. Then when did they leave? It's been a while, right? That waiter scratched his head, thought for a moment and said, If they left quickly enough, most likely they would be out of the city gate, ha ha. Luo Ting smashed his fist on the counter and walked out in large strides. Without looking at Black Panther, he walked towards the direction of the Freelance Martial Artist Association. As Black Panther looked at Luo Ting's back, a trace of a strange smile spilled out from the corner of his mouth. He knew that this Luo Ting was truly angry. When this person was angry, his brain would become hot. Once his brain became hot, he would be much easier to deal with. Naturally, all of this, including the shopkeeper of this inn to the waiter, were Black Panther's eyes and connections in the Ironwood State City. These were the methods of Black Panther, a freelance martial artist. It would be as easy as turning his hand if he wanted to scheme against Luo Ting. Luo Ting and Black Panther returned to the inn one after another. Just as Luo Ting approached the entrance of the association, a person bumped out. When he brushed past Luo Ting, his shoulder just happened to lightly bump into Luo Ting's shoulder. Luo Ting's mood was not good, he scolded loudly. Bastard, don't you have eyes? That person flew into a rage, but after sizing up Luo Ting's face for a moment, he had an expression of disbelief and shouted, Young Master Luo Ting, isn't this Young Master Luo Ting? Sigh, it's really you. Young Master Luo Ting, I'm your admirer. I didn't expect to see Young Master Luo Ting in this kind of small place. What a surprise. The man was still chattering away. Luo Ting was simply baffled, but in his heart, he sucked in a breath of cold air. He seemed to have realized that he seemed to have been schemed against by someone. His whole body seemed to have fallen into a trap that he could not extricate himself from. It made him feel that his whole body and his skin felt numb. It was simply like seeing a ghost. A freelance martial artist that he did not know actually exposed his identity. With this roar, everyone in the entire hall of the association looked over. Hundreds of pairs of eyes locked onto Luo Ting's face at the same time, making Luo Ting wish that he could wear a mask and find a place to hide. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 508. And Black Panther, who was standing outside the hall, looked at Luo Ting's embarrassed state with an indifferent face. From the corner of his eyes, there was a trace of crafty smile that no one could detect. Without a doubt, all of this had come from Black Panther's ingenious arrangement. Since this Luo Ting did not treat him as a human, it was the right thing. Black Panther did not need to care about their past relationship, and would not care about Luo Ting's feelings. Currently, Black Panther was only loyal to one master, and that was Qin Wushuang. What he needed to do now was to drag Luo Ting out from the dark without exposing himself. As long as Luo Ting was exposed, the progress of the entire matter would not be far from the truth. This strategy was extremely vicious. Not only would it drag Luo Ting out, it would also clear his relationship with Black Panther. It would allow Luo Ting to not know how he had been exposed after being sold. Indeed, Luo Ting would die upon seeing the light. 2 days ago, these freelance martial artists had just heard the rumors about how Luo Ting had framed Qin Wushuang. At this moment, these rumors were spreading like a ruckus. At this time, Luo Ting's sudden appearance would make that rumor appear extremely credible. Indeed, although Luo Ting was gnashing his teeth with hatred inwardly, it was not convenient for him to act out. He suppressed his anger and glared at that baffled freelance martial artist. "Did you recognize the wrong person?" Luo Ting was not an idiot. He knew that if he flew into a rage, it would make it more conspicuous. Thus, he pretended to be confused and wanted to deal with it. Unexpectedly, that person was extremely mischievous, as if he had grasped Luo Ting's weakness of not daring to use force. He grabbed Luo Ting and said with his spittle flying, "How could I see it wrong? I would never see it wrong. Young Master Luo Ting, did you forget? 2 years ago, at that gathering of young talents at the Lion King's mansion, you were in the limelight and won many martial arts competitions. At that time, us freelance martial artists admired you." Of course, the matter spoken by this person was true. That assembly from 2 years ago had caused a sensation at the Xian Yuan Mound. Although most freelance martial artists did not have the chance to watch it. However, this person's voice made people think of it. Luo Ting's heart sank. Could it be this guy truly knows me? He turned around to look behind him, and hoped Black Panther would come to help him out. Black Panther tactfully walked over and pretended to push the person away. "Friend, you've got the wrong person." When that person saw Black Panther, he screamed and then laughed. "You got the wrong person? Haha, if I recognize the wrong person, I will dig out my eyeballs and give them to you. 2 years ago, weren't you by young Master Luo Ting's side? You're his subordinate, I remember that." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall was in an uproar. If one person was mistaken, it was impossible for both of them to be mistaken, right? Black Panther looked at Luo Ting in embarrassment. Luo Ting pushed that person away and said fiercely, "Next time, remember to look at people more clearly." That person continued to blabber on and argued, "I've already seen it clearly." Luo Ting did not know if this person was doing it on purpose or if there was something wrong with his brain. At this critical juncture, anyone with a slightly normal brain would know that he was unwilling to reveal his identity. But this guy insisted on arguing, not knowing how to be flexible at all. Luo Ting's evil thoughts grew in his guts. He took one step closer, thinking that he would quietly end this man's life. Black Panther watched from the side with a pair of cold eyes. When he saw Luo Ting's temperament, he knew that he was about to explode. Since he had found someone to act, of course Black Panther would not let the actor lose his life. Immediately, he rushed up and pushed that person away viciously. "Get lost. I already said you saw it wrong. Why are you still talking so much? Get lost as far as you can." That person rolled on the ground like a gourd and was pushed to the corner of the hall. He crawled up by the foot of the wall and shouted as he walked, "What's so great about being an offspring of a venerable family? Aren't you just born with a good background? What right do you have to bully people like this? I must have been blind to admire hypocrites like you." Puh. At this time, instantly, the hall became noisy. Apparently, everyone was dissatisfied with Luo Ting's bullying behavior. Someone even said coldly, "It seems that the rumors in these few days were not without wind. Everyone, tell me, why did this offspring of a venerable family come to such a remote place?" As soon as this person spoke, someone on the side immediately started to jeer. "Yes, the young master of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect is high and mighty. He came here to hide with us, a group of poor freelance martial artists. He doesn't even dare to show his face, there must be a trap here." Bang! A guy with a bad temper even slammed his fist on the table. "Darn it, if that Qin clan does not have a divine treasure and someone made it up, even if he is an offspring of a venerable family, I will not let him off." Isn't that right? They are clearly tricking us to our deaths. 2 of my brothers died at the dispersed praying mountain. We must settle this debt. Everyone in the hall spoke one after another. All of their words were targeted. At this time, suddenly, someone said, "You with the surname Luo, if you are truly an offspring of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect and do not dare to admit it, then you are a coward. You have lost the face of the sect. If you are a man, don't hide it. If you are not Luo Ting, then who are you? Which prefecture did he come from? Which territory did he belong to? Say it, someone will know you. If you cannot say it, then you are Luo Ting. If you are Luo Ting, why do you not dare to admit your identity?" The logic of these people was clear. Step by step, they were forcing Luo Ting into the abyss. When Black Panther heard these voices, he knew that these people were the spiritual beasts next to Qin Wushuang. Although Luo Ting had a high strength, he did not know what to do when encountering such situation. Instead, he froze on the spot. He only looked at the entire scene with a pair of cold eyes, and inwardly, he was already thinking of a way to retreat. "What's wrong? Can't say anything?" Another guy said coldly. "Are you feeling guilty because you're guilty? Guys, do you have any brothers that died on the way to the human countries? Do you have any friends that were killed at the dispersed praying mountain? If you do, step out. Use our unity to tell them that us freelance martial artists are not that easy to fool. Yes, we must demand an explanation. Speak, who are you? Are you Luo Ting?" After being depressed for such a long time, naturally, these freelance martial artists had accumulated a wave of resentment. Now they had found an outlet to vent their anger and learned that most likely, all their efforts had come from a scheme to fool them. They had used them as weapons to deal with the human countries. When they thought here, the lungs of these freelance martial artists were about to explode from anger. Especially those freelance martial artists whose family and friends had lost their lives in this incident, they were unable to restrain their anger. Anger was also erupting from Luo Ting's chest. Up to this point, he still did not understand how he could be so unlucky. It could be said that it was inexplicable. Inexplicably, someone had seen through his scheme. Inexplicably, a powerful powerhouse had appeared at the dispersed praying mountain to stop the freelance martial artists from crossing the border. Inexplicably, that Murong Su had appeared at the Ironwood State City and suddenly disappeared. Inexplicably, someone had recognized his identity. Luo Ting was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, he knew that under the public's anger, even if he was a disciple of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, even if he had superior strength and trump cards, he knew that today's matter could not be solved with martial arts. Instantly, he gave a cold sneer and denied flatly, "A group of lunatics, I don't have time to play with you guys." After he had finished speaking, he walked towards the door of the hall. Since Luo Ting was about to leave, among these freelance martial artists, no one could stop him. However, Luo Ting's departure had confirmed those people's suspicions. All of them cried out, "He has a guilty conscience, he ran away." Despicable, indeed, none of the venerable offspring are good. Too despicable. He used us freelance martial artists as his spear to deal with Qin Wushuang of the human countries. This person deserves his fiancée to run away from the marriage. He deserves to be unable to marry a wife. Sarcastic words were like a tide, rising and falling one after another, constantly surging over. Naturally, Black Panther would not linger when he saw Luo Ting leaving. He followed Luo Ting and left quickly. When Luo Ting saw Black Panther following him, he said with an annoyed tone, "You stay here, don't come back to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect to see me before you wipe your butt clean." Black Panther said with a fake tone, "Young master, since the matter has developed to this point, how do you want me to wipe it clean? Since the hole has been poked, it cannot be mended no matter how much I try." Then you better pray for yourself. Luo Ting gave a cold sneer and floated forward like a gust of wind. He did not even look back. Black Panther followed behind him and cried out, "Young master, what do you mean by this?" "What do I mean? Make your own guess," Luo Ting said coldly. "Since you did not handle the matter well, of course you must bear all the consequences. I never left the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Of course, this matter has nothing to do with me. Ha ha ha." Black Panther's heart sank as he thought. Indeed, this kid would burn the bridge after crossing the river. He was ready to clear his name and use me as a scapegoat. If you are heartless, I will not be righteous. Murderous intentions flashed across Black Panther's eyes as he said coldly, "Luo Ting, you forced me to do this. Do you think you can clear your name by sneaking back to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect?" Luo Ting said leisurely, "I can create 100 kinds of evidence and let everyone in the sect testify that I never left the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Can you do it?" Black Panther kept sneering as he sent his voice. "Unfortunately, I am afraid you will not even have the chance to return to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Luo Ting, if you die on the road, how can the heavenly Luo Daoist sect create evidence for you?" Inwardly, Luo Ting's heart sank, but then he laughed. "Black Panther, with your little strength, you want to kill your master? Ha ha, in your dreams." In the midst of their conversation, Luo Ting had already arrived outside the Ironwood State City. Black Panther followed closely behind him, and did not let go of Luo Ting. Luo Ting warned him, "Black Panther, if you continue to follow me, I would not mind killing you along the way." Black Panther said coldly, "Then go ahead and try." Luo Ting knew that in this area, the terrain was not advantageous. If he were to make a move to kill Black Panther here, most likely he would startle those freelance martial artists. By that time, it would be difficult for him to clear his name. He must find a place where no one would know and kill Black Panther. Then, he would push all the blame onto Black Panther. At the crucial moment, Luo Ting was also extremely determined and ruthless. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 509. On the other hand, inside the Freelance Martial Artist Union, those freelance martial artists were still chattering and cursing Luo Ting's despicable actions. Some freelance martial artists who had lost their brothers even cried bitterly. Being martial artists, they were not afraid of death, nor were they greedy for life. However, it was not worth it to die such an unjust death. Because of a rumor, a conspiracy, they had lost their lives for no reason. No one would be able to accept it. Everyone calm down. For this matter, although we are also responsible, the biggest one is Luo Ting who spread the rumor. If he had not spread the rumor maliciously, how could everyone have gone to the human countries? Yes, this Luo Ting hated Qin Wushuang and did not dare to show himself. Instead, he used us as a tool. For such despicable actions, we cannot let it go. Everyone, let's go to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain and sue this Luo Ting. If this Luo Ting does not die, how could we face our dead freelance martial artist brothers? Yes, we cannot afford to offend the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect. However, the Heavenly Emperor would never condone such actions that broke the 10,000-year agreement. Everyone, let's go and complain. I say, everyone calm down. Although we were fooled by going to the human countries, they did not force us to go. In the end, we were driven by our greed. We are also responsible. I am afraid that if we go and complain, it would not be justified. This person had stood out to sing a different tune. Bullshit, we did not go to the human countries. Now we are complaining for those brothers who died at the dispersed praying mountain. Because of their greed, those brothers had lost their lives. This person who spread the rumor must not get away with it, right? That's right, we did not go to the human countries, why can't we complain? Even for those who had escaped from the dispersed praying mountain, they would not admit that they had been there. Each of them was filled with righteous indignation. Of course, most of these yelling people had lost their friends and family at the dispersed praying mountain. For those unrelated to the matter, although they hated Luo Ting for spreading the rumor, they felt sorry to ask them to complain. It would be impossible. Currently, Qin Wushuang was also hiding in this great hall. He knew that Luo Ting and Black Panther should have left for some time. Immediately, he sent a voice transmission to Yinglong. Yinglong, continue to stay here and bewitch everyone. We must spread Luo Ting's conspiracy as far as possible. Yes, Yinglong replied. Jade Rabbit and Mole, you two cooperate with Yinglong, set up a line of defense within 500 li of the Ironwood State City, in case there were rogue cultivators who were unwilling to give up and wanted to continue towards the human countries. Use whatever means you have. Don't let a single one slip through. Yes, Master. Don't worry. Even if it's an expert of the profound void martial stage, the two of us are confident that we can make them nurse a grudge. Sky Pilfered Mole and Moon Palace Jade Hair appeared to be full of confidence. After giving out his instructions, Qin Wushuang brought the three profound void martial stage spirit beasts and quickly left the Ironwood State City. In hot pursuit, Qin Wushuang's purple cloud yin-yang wings were so fast that they did not lose out to the speed of a void transformation stage expert. Qin Wushuang urged his speed, and in less than 15 minutes, he had caught up to Black Panther. Qin Wushuang had walked this path not long ago. Naturally, he was familiar with the terrain and knew that this path would lead them to the Black Raven Royal City. On the way to the Black Raven Royal City, there were many remote areas. Initially, Qin Wushuang and Bao Bao had encountered a group of people who were chasing after Qin Guan, an offspring of the 100-leaf Qin clan. At that time, Qin Wushuang had saved Qin Guan and killed that group of freelance martial artists. Qin Wushuang knew that to kill Luo Ting, that place would be the best place. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang sped up and chased after him. At the same time, he sent his spiritual perception to Black Panther and asked him to stop Luo Ting at that giant canyon. Now, naturally, Black Panther hated Luo Ting to the bone. Of course, he hoped he would die quickly. Without hesitation, he chased after him even more tightly. After about 4 to 6 hours, the terrain gradually became desolate. That Luo Ting's mind also became active. He looked back and saw Black Panther chasing after him closely. In a flash, Luo Ting dropped into the center of the giant canyon. Black Panther also followed him with a cold sneer. At this time, Qin Wushuang had already called out that hissing sky phoenix. The speed of the hissing sky phoenix was as fast as lightning. In a few leaps, he had rushed to the front. Luo Ting only felt a wave of red light rushing before his eyes. A wave of red clouds overflowed from the sky and rushed past him like a tide. A wave of doubt flashed across Luo Ting's mind. He looked at the sky and was somewhat surprised. When the black figure dropped to the ground, Black Panther had already landed on the hillside 3 or 4 miles behind him. With a few leaps, he had scuttled before him. Luo Ting laughed nastily. Black Panther, life is unpredictable. I never thought that between us master and servant, such a day would come. However, do you think that with that bit of cultivation of yours, you can gain any advantage in front of this young master? After he had finished speaking, he laughed wantonly and sized up the surrounding environment. Then, he said with a calm and unruffled tone, choosing this place to send you on your way, at least I didn't let you down, right? Black Panther said lightly. Luo Ting, I have seen many offspring of the venerable families. In terms of talent and power, you are not much less than the exceptional offspring of many first-rate powerhouses. However, Do you know what is the fatal and hard wound on your body? Luo Ting laughed to the sky. Black Panther, at this time, you still want to mess with my mind? If you think that my mental endurance is as weak as yours, then you are wrong. You are indulging in fantasy if you want to provoke me. Black Panther gave a long sigh and said slowly, At death's door, you still don't know what your fatal weakness is. I might as well tell you. You have the talent of an offspring of the venerable families, and all the advantages of an offspring of the venerable families. However, your fatal weakness is that you are too narrow-minded. For a narrow-minded person, regardless of how high your talent is, you will never reach the peak of the Tian Xian land. A trace of fierce light flashed across Luo Ting's eyes. Although he was already mentally prepared, Black Panther's words still pierced his nerves deeply. Black Panther, perhaps I should give you some strong medicine to make you shut up. Black Panther was not afraid as he sneered. Of course, I cannot kill you. However, it will not be easy for you to kill me. I know that the heavenly Luo Daoist sect has given you some trump cards. However, whether these trump cards can let you leave here alive, it remains to be tested. Luo Ting glanced behind him unintentionally and said with a cold sneer, If you think that a spiritual beast that flew past here can be your helper to kill me, then you can try. Ha ha ha. Black Panther did not speak anymore and took a step back. It was because he felt that Qin Wushuang had already dropped behind him. Suddenly, Luo Ting's brows moved. Who? Who do you think it should be? Qin Wushuang's voice was as calm as a gust of wind. However, within this calmness, it made Luo Ting feel that endless perilous waves were hidden within. Black Panther, who is he? Luo Ting opened his eyes widely and vividly. He felt a trace of unease. The person that will come to settle accounts with you and take your life. Black Panther said coldly. Luo Ting's eyes lit up as he glared at Black Panther and hissed. Black Panther, it seems that you have already betrayed me. Very good, tell me, when did it start? Black Panther gave tit for tat, since the moment you gave up on me. Ha, you slave. Luo Ting swore, I gave up on you? You think you are worthy of me giving up on you? From beginning to end, I only treated you as a dog. I don't need you. I can beat you to death at any time. Do you think that you can bite back at me just because you turned against me? Black Panther said, A mad dog, what's worth biting? Qin Wushuang clapped his hands and laughed. Well scolded, a mad dog, who's worth biting you? Luo Ting flew into a rage. Kid, what kind of trick is it to hide the head and show the tail? If you have the guts, tell me your name and let me see who you are. Luo Ting, you have been thinking about how to scheme against me day and night. Now that I'm in front of you, why can't you recognize me? Qin Wushuang's gloomy tone obviously contained a monstrous anger. One-horn mystical horse and pure altar precious pig also surrounded Luo Ting, sealing off his left and right paths of escape. Luo Ting's eyes flickered with astonishment as his chest heaved up and down. He looked at Qin Wushuang in disbelief and said coldly, Qin Wushuang? Luo Ting. Qin Wushuang calmed down at this moment. The moment their gazes met, sparks of hatred shot out between the two enemies who had never met before. They both had reasons to hate each other. However, at this moment, the reasons were no longer important. What was important was who would leave this place alive. Luo Ting looked at Qin Wushuang coldly and revealed a trace of ridicule from the corner of his mouth. Pitiful ant, if I'm not mistaken, you are only a pitiful worm that has just entered the void martial stage, right? You want to go against the heavenly Luo Daoist sect with just you? Ha ha ha. Luo Ting's tone was full of disdain, as if looking at Qin Wushuang one more time was a great favor to Qin Wushuang. Listen well, Luo Ting. From the first moment when the heavenly Luo Daoist sect started to chase after me, I made a great wish. Until the end of my life, if I do not flatten the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, I am not a human. And you, Luo Ting, will be the sacrificial flag for my war against the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Luo Ting laughed, and of course, he was still extremely disdainful. Qin, you only achieve some laughable results in the human countries. Do you think you can run amok in the Xian Yuan Mound? In the eyes of the Xian Yuan Mound, the so-called genius of the human countries is only a jumping clown. Pitiful ant, let me show you the true meaning of being powerful. When he said these words, Luo Ting initiated the temperament from his entire body. Like a rainbow, a stream of air soared to the sky from Luo Ting's body. The color of this wave of air was strange, as it was red to the point of almost appearing purple. Inside this purple light, Luo Ting's entire body was quickly wrapped by a layer of light scale armor. This scale armor seemed to be a set of armor as it wrapped around his body. Luo Ting grabbed with both hands and pulled out an incomparably resplendent curved blade. Behind the scimitar's hilt, there was a long chain that seemed to be there but not there. Master, you must be careful of his weapon. Black Panther sent his voice. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not neglect him. He made a hand gesture and the three spiritual beasts surrounded Luo Ting from three different directions. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 510. Although Luo Ting had fallen into a tight encirclement, inwardly, he was not afraid. There was the so-called saying of a person with great skill being bold. Being an elite warrior at the profound void martial stage, Luo Ting also possessed many trump cards. It allowed him to remain calm when facing such a situation. He also saw that the three spiritual beasts that had surrounded him were all at the profound void martial stage. If it were a head-on battle, despite his high strength, Luo Ting would not be a match for them. However, Luo Ting had the trump cards bestowed to him by the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Inwardly, he was confident. For these trump cards, even Black Panther would not know about them. Qin Wushuang, did you know? In a forbidden spiritual zone like the Xian Yuan Mound, everyone loves to laugh at the same joke. This joke is your human countries. Each time I see the mole crickets and crickets of your human countries trying everything to climb to a higher position, yet in the end, they are too weak to stand up against the wind in the forbidden spiritual zone. Do you understand that kind of laughable feeling? Of course, Qin Wushuang knew that this Luo Ting felt good about himself. In his eyes, the people of the human countries were no different than mole crickets and insects. On this point, Qin Wushuang had fully experienced it when he had listened to the conversation between Luo Ting and Black Panther at the Wild Flame Cliff. Of course, he did not find it strange when he heard his words. He knew that Luo Ting wanted to provoke Qin Wushuang and wanted to see the hysterical side of Qin Wushuang. This way, inwardly, Luo Ting would feel more satisfied and superior. However, for Qin Wushuang, who had been tempered into steel, currently, his will was as firm as a rock. For Luo Ting's little tricks, it was as if a breeze had brushed past his ears without leaving the slightest trace. Qin Wushuang, it's not that I want to attack you. In my eyes, you are a toad at the bottom of the well. In the world you saw, you thought you were strong enough. However, to speak the truth, when you jumped onto the fence of the well, if you still don't know how big the sky is and don't know how to hide in that space the size of the well, then it's your fault. Do you think Murong Su fell in love with you at first sight just because he chatted with you? Do you think you can get the same favor in the forbidden lands of God just because you are supported by those vulgar women in the human countries? Let me tell you, a toad will always be a toad. No matter how low a swan flies, it can only satisfy your eyes. Luo Ting talked nonstop. These words were no longer as simple as just provoking Qin Wushuang. In fact, he was also venting his resentment. Not only did he resent Qin Wushuang, but he also resented Murong Su. Qin Wushuang listened to his endless chatter and simply disdained to argue. He only indifferently said, "Luo Ting, looks like Miss Murong running away from the marriage and choosing not to marry you was not a decision made on impulse, but a very wise decision. I think it's very strange. In my life, I also have a few people who I hate very much. They are my enemies. However, at least in them I can more or less see some shining points. For the benefit of the sect, for the benefit of the country, for kinship, for friendship, they went against me and became my enemy. In the end, they died in my hands, so I did not lose some respect. However, what makes me surprised is that on you, there is actually nothing good about them." Qin Wushuang's words were like knives, stabbing into Luo Ting's heart. Luo Ting shook his chain knife and said with an evil grin, "Qin Wushuang, don't tell me that this is the so-called jealousy? But, the fate of being born lowly in the end cannot be changed. This is your fate. You can only look up to my existence forever. You will always be a pitiful worm with jealousy and envy." Luo Ting felt very good about himself. His chain knife flashed in front of his eyes and twisted into 3 circles. 3 perfect arcs like a dragon spiraling in the sky, whistling as it came. The knife was like a crescent moon, shining brightly. Under the sunlight, it shot out tens of thousands of knife lights, shooting over. At this moment, pure altar precious pig's body, which was as big as Mount Tai, strode forward. His 2 fat hands grabbed the air. A spiral airflow like a tai chi condensed between his hands. Like the attraction force of a magnet to metal, those tens of thousands of knife lights were sucked in by this airflow. They attached themselves to the airflow and spun rapidly. Outside this airflow, sharp sawtooth-like lights kept growing and spinning at high speed. Pure altar precious pig shouted, "Go!" The entire airflow formed a cyclone, like a huge hidden weapon, directly blasted toward Luo Ting. Luo Ting saw pure altar precious pig's skill and was somewhat impressed. However, after all, Luo Ting was not someone who had never seen a big battle. Seeing the sawtooth-like sharp lights around the cyclone, like flying gears, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His body soared into the sky. His aura was like a dragon flying in the sky. His chain knife suddenly trembled like a long knife. He straightened his hands and slashed the knife in the air. This Luo Ting unexpectedly wanted to meet force with force. Crash! When the blade cut into the cyclone, it was like a knife cutting into a watermelon. It was cut into 2 halves on the spot. This cyclone was cut open. The airflow dissipated and immediately turned into countless small airflows, shooting in all directions. The dust on the ground was stirred up, the surrounding plants were destroyed, and the grass and leaves danced in the air. Luo Ting let out a long laugh. "Qin Wushuang, is your ability to hide behind these spirit beasts and pretend to be weak? If you have the ability, come and fight with me face to face. If you can block 3 of my moves, I, Luo Ting, will let bygones be bygones. How about it?" Qin Wushuang's heart was as calm as still water. He turned a deaf ear to Luo Ting's provocation. Qin Wushuang was not a hot-headed person. With his void-refining martial stage cultivation base, if he were to confront the enemy face to face with Luo Ting, who was at the profound void martial stage, unless his brain was damaged, he would not do this. With Qin Wushuang's temperament, naturally, he would not be disturbed by these few words. "Luo Ting, put away your childish provocation. If I were you, I would think about how to escape with my life, instead of flaunting your so-called advantage of words." Qin Wushuang disdained Luo Ting and said indifferently. Luo Ting was about to reply when he suddenly felt a burst of fire burning half of the sky behind him. Then, a boiling heat wave, as if a furnace in the sky was pouring down fire, rolled forward. Luo Ting turned around and saw a fire dragon rolling over, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It was like a long rainbow streaking across the sky, with an extremely magnificent aura. As this fire dragon spiraled, it seemed to have a divine sense. It directly coiled around Luo Ting's body and kept rolling. This fire dragon was obviously spat out by the hissing sky phoenix. It was not a real dragon. Because of this, the body of this fire dragon seemed to be able to stretch infinitely. Like a rope, it kept rolling in the air as if it wanted to use this tyrannical fire to lock Luo Ting's life. Luo Ting laughed and rolled his body at a rapid speed. On his body, the purple light congealed into a ball. Instantly, the scales on his entire body glistened and dazzled the eyes. All of a sudden, countless star-like rays of light shot out from the surface of the scales. They were dazzling and dazzling as they rushed out. Like tens of thousands of concealed weapons, these specks of starlight formed a wave of expanding power that spread outwards. It formed waves of ripples that spread outwards. As soon as this expanding power rushed out, it had shattered those waves of fire into pieces. They turned into countless tiny flames and fell down. Twice in a row, this Luo Ting had broken the two killing moves of pure altar precious pig and hissing sky phoenix with extreme ease. Inwardly, Black Panther had mixed feelings. He knew that Luo Ting's methods were superior. Now, when he saw Luo Ting's display of invincible power vividly, he was also worried. If he could not take out Luo Ting today, there would be no end of trouble in the future. Once Luo Ting escaped back to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, the elite warriors he could mobilize would cause the entire Xian Yuan Mound, besides the heavenly Emperor Mountain, to tremble. Once the giant figure of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect was activated, the power it would produce would be terrifying. Qin Wushuang, I must admit that you are somewhat lucky to have found these spiritual beasts that are willing to risk their lives for you. Now, Luo Ting had to re-evaluate Qin Wushuang's strength. However, the gap between you and me is innate. Luck alone was not enough to make up for it. Now I will show you my true strength. When Luo Ting said here, he wrapped the chain blade around his arm. In a flash, he had disappeared into the sky. When an elite warrior of the profound void stage merged into the sky, he only borrowed the airflow to form a form of visual concealment. To put it bluntly, it was still a camouflage. It was not because he was not in this sky. Only elite warriors of the exquisite mysterious boundary could shatter the sky and extract themselves from the space. It was miraculous. Suddenly, with a flash of light in the sky to the south, Luo Ting's figure reappeared and escaped into the sky. In the next moment, the sky to the north flashed again and Luo Ting's body dropped to the north. Qin Wushuang knew that this Luo Ting was trying to show off his skills. At the moment, he did not dare to neglect. With the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, his mind was as calm as still water. He did not spread out his spiritual perception deliberately and only guarded the surrounding 300 meters. One horn mystical horse gave a roar and shouted, "Master, watch me for this little trick." The mystical horse kicked with both legs and suddenly, his body stood up like a human. The horn on his forehead emitted a strange light. Suddenly, the horn started to sink into his forehead. In the blink of an eye, that horn had completely shrunk into his forehead. Suddenly, the flesh on his forehead flipped, and at the location of the horn, a giant eyeball that was much bigger than an ordinary eye appeared. When this eyeball shot towards the sky, it shot out a wave of golden light. Once this golden light shot out, it emitted a dazzling light. Instantly, the sky was illuminated into nothingness. Even a speck of dust had nowhere to hide and appeared so clear. Not here. One horn mystical horse's eyelids moved extremely fast. He scanned in all directions and shot the entire sky. After shooting 3 or 4 times, Luo Ting's figure was captured by this golden light. No matter how he flew, he was unable to escape from the illumination of this golden light. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed at this unexpected good news. One horn, keep tracking. With the graceful spiritual bow in his hand and the illumination of the golden light from one horn, it formed a perfect trajectory and formed the best shooting route. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 5:11. The golden light from the horn shot out at an extremely fast speed, but Luo Ting's movement speed was not slow either. Being chased by the golden light, Luo Ting fled in all directions. Unexpectedly, the golden light could only hit him for a moment, but it was unable to lock him in place. When Qin Wushuang was about to shoot with the graceful spiritual bow, he realized that Luo Ting had already deviated from the trajectory. It was the same for a few times. Qin Wushuang was not discouraged, and the graceful spiritual bow still maintained its shooting mode. Although Luo Ting could dodge, he felt as if there was a blade at his back. Because he had heard that Qin Wushuang had an extremely powerful weapon, and it was precisely this graceful spiritual bow. It was said that it could kill people of a higher level. Regarding the power of this bow and arrow, Luo Ting did not dare to lower his guard. Although he had the protective scale armor, and his defensive power was indeed nature-defying. But if that bow and arrow were truly a divine Dao weapon, even if he had the purple scale armor, he would still not be able to block it. Therefore, although Luo Ting was proud, he would never dare to resist the graceful spiritual bow. Ever since Qin Wushuang possessed the graceful spiritual bow, he had never met anyone who dared to resist the graceful spiritual bow head-on. Therefore, he absolutely believed that Luo Ting would also not dare to face this graceful spiritual bow. Seeing him leap in the air like this, although it seemed fancy, it was actually a display of cowardice. Luo Ting was also furious in his heart. Although it was only a short exchange of blows, what surprised him was that, under such a situation, not only did he not gain any advantage, but he had also unknowingly fallen into a disadvantageous position. These three great spirit beasts were all at the profound void martial stage when ganging up on him. And these profound void martial stage martial artists all had their own divine abilities. These divine abilities actually made him feel that his hands and feet were bound, and it was extremely uncomfortable. Especially that guy Qin Wushuang, who was holding a bow from afar. That kind of potential threat to him made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Luo Ting had never dreamed that Qin Wushuang, whom he had always looked down upon, would actually make him feel uncomfortable. His heart was filled with an indescribable anger. However, when he launched the charge just now, he realized that it was impossible for the three spirit beasts to let him get close to Qin Wushuang and attack him one-on-one. If he was unable to launch a one-on-one attack against Qin Wushuang, he, Luo Ting, simply had no chance of success in breaking out of today's situation. To say that he could defeat three profound void stage spirit beasts by himself was simply a fool's dream. Thinking of this, Luo Ting already had some plans in mind. Since there was no chance of victory, today's situation was not suitable to continue fighting. Killing Qin Wushuang had always been the most tempting thing for him. But as the saying goes, the pressure of the situation is greater than the person. Once he fell into a tight encirclement, even if he had some trump cards, but if three void interpretation stage martial artists were to risk their lives against him at the same time, the situation would still be extremely disadvantageous to him. Thinking of this, Luo Ting suddenly dived down from midair and rushed towards the ground. At this time, the pure altar precious pig, who had been waiting underground, roared. With a loud roar, he opened his ferocious mouth, and a powerful suction force immediately welcomed Luo Ting. As soon as this suction force spurted out, the yellow sand on the ground was immediately lifted up. A very pungent fishy smell soared up to the sky and greeted Luo Ting. Although Luo Ting was exceptional, but suddenly, His entire dantian was tossed and turned, and even his primordial spirit was almost sucked out. His blood surged. Luo Ting was indeed exceptional. Even in such a situation, he did not forget to hack down with the chain knife in his hand. And his body forcefully twisted and rushed up to midair. He was originally rushing downwards, but in an instant, he changed to rushing upwards. It was equivalent to his entire body suddenly making a 180-degree turn. This kind of sudden and rapid change of direction had an extremely great impact on his body. Just when he was lucky enough to rush out, the hissing sky phoenix in midair almost arrived at the same time. The feathers on its back rapidly contracted. With a flick, it instantly shot out hundreds of flaming feather arrows. These feather arrows were clearly a part of the hissing sky phoenix's body. Shot out with the primordial spirit, the power could be said to be astonishingly great. Luo Ting did not even have time to breathe. How could he have time to dodge? Without any time to react, he could only urge with all his strength. The purple scale armor once again shot out an extremely dazzling light. Qin Wushuang saw the opportunity and knew that Luo Ting was already prepared to resist. With a thought, he made a prompt decision and suddenly shot out the graceful spiritual bow. The soaring green light was still so familiar, but every time it was shot out, Qin Wushuang felt a throbbing feeling from the depths of his heart. The power of this graceful spiritual bow, the enormous energy contained within the graceful spiritual bow, made Qin Wushuang, the owner, feel that it was endless. Just like a huge treasure house, it made Qin Wushuang feel that it had unlimited potential to be excavated. Although Luo Ting was resisting the attacks of the hissing sky phoenix in the middle of the air, he had been keeping an eye on Qin Wushuang's movements with his mental power. The instant he saw Qin Wushuang raise his arm slightly, he knew of Qin Wushuang's ambition. Without making any reaction, he made a hand gesture and instantly, a simple and unadorned spiritual talisman was activated. Instantly, a wave of white smoke spread out in the middle of the air. Amidst this smoke, Luo Ting's body had already turned into a long rainbow and dashed away with the help of the white light. "This guy is escaping." One horn mystical horse reacted immediately and chased after that white light at a fast speed. Luo Ting's escape had covered at least a few hundred miles, and he did not leave behind any traces when he used the escape technique. If one horn mystical horse did not have the tracking skill, he would not have been able to find the direction of Luo Ting's escape. Naturally, he would not have been able to chase after him. This Luo Ting was the most prized disciple of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Many of the equipment he carried were unattainable by the younger generation. Thus, during the battle, regardless of fighting or retreating, he had enough capital. It was also the reason why Luo Ting could still talk cheerfully and wittily when he was trapped in a tight encirclement. However, Luo Ting did not expect that the opponents he had encountered were not ordinary opponents. Each of the 12 spiritual beasts inside these 12 sealed scrolls had extraordinary strength. Most importantly, each of these spiritual beasts had their own unique divine skills. These skills had restrained Luo Ting's trump cards from all aspects and prevented him from unleashing 100% of his trump card. With this consumption, Luo Ting had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. One horn mystical horse took the lead and called out, "Follow me." Pure altar precious pig showed a long face. "Another battle in the air? Don't you know that I am not good at flying in the air?" Hissing Sky Phoenix called out, "Fat pig, I cannot carry you, don't expect me to carry you." Initially, although this pure altar precious pig had a gigantic body, he could also fly in the air. However, in terms of flying speed, he was far behind Hissing Sky Phoenix and One Horn Mystical Horse. He could only unleash his maximum speed on land. Hearing Hissing Sky Phoenix's words, he was very dejected. Qin Wushuang heard him and called out, "Precious pig, I will bring you away. Let's go to the sealed scrolls first." With a move of the sealed scrolls, Precious Pig was summoned in. Qin Wushuang spread out his wings and followed one-horn mystical horse's identity and chased over quickly. On the other hand, Luo Ting used the escape technique and escaped a few hundred miles away. His speed was very fast as he dashed forward. This was the most dangerous battle that Luo Ting had encountered since his debut. Under the siege of 3 spiritual beasts of the profound void martial stage, Luo Ting also felt that he could not bear it. Recalling the situation where Qin Wushuang aimed at him with his bow and arrow, Luo Ting was even more furious. He swore in his heart, "Qin Wushuang, if I don't exterminate your 9 generations, I am not a human." While urging his speed, he took out a piece of jade token. This was a special spiritual sense jade token, which was made of special materials. Through this jade token, even if he was 10,000 miles away, he could send his spiritual sense to the person he wanted to send it to. A few 100,000 miles away at the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, inside a deep mountain cave, the head Tao warrior of the sect, Luo Tongtian, suddenly opened his eyes. He held a piece of dark green jade token in his hand. When he rubbed it, the scene of Luo Ting flying in the sky appeared. Luo Ting. Luo Tongtian frowned. What's going on? Luo Ting sent his spiritual sense through the jade token. Head Tao warrior, 3 profound void martial stage warriors are chasing after me. 3 spiritual beasts of the profound void martial stage? Inwardly, the head Tao warrior's heart sank. Where are you now? Recently, the head Tao warrior had been in solitary training and did not know that Luo Ting was outside. Thus, for the time being, he did not know where Luo Ting was. Luo Ting said, "Head Tao warrior, I am at the Orderly Mountain Prefecture. Soon, I will enter the territory of the Judge Mountain Prefecture." "Who is chasing after you?" the head Tao warrior asked in a low voice. "It's Qin Wushuang, that nobody from the human countries. I don't know what kind of luck he has. He has 3 spiritual beasts at the profound void martial stage that listen to him. Head Tao warrior, please send elite warriors to receive me." Inwardly, Luo Ting no longer had his previous arrogance. After experiencing the power of the 3 spiritual beasts at the profound void martial stage, especially after experiencing the power of Qin Wushuang's arrows, Luo Ting no longer had his previous arrogance. What replaced it was a deep fear. He knew that once he was surrounded again, the other party would use all their strength to kill him and make his situation even more difficult. When he had used all his trump cards, the situation would become even more difficult. Thus, now was not the time to talk about his status. He must shake off the pursuers. As long as the elite warriors of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect came to receive him, everything would be fine. As long as he killed Qin Wushuang, he would guide all public opinion. Even if he had to find a scapegoat in the end, he could push all the blame onto Black Panther. Although the head Tao warrior was dissatisfied with Luo Ting leaving the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, Luo Ting was the #1 successor of the sect. Of course, it would not be good if something happened to him in the outside world. Immediately, he said, run at full speed towards the sect. When encountering danger, do not hold back on those trump cards. Only prioritize your own life, understand? Of course, there was no need to say this. At this crucial moment, of course Luo Ting knew that his little life was more important than anything else. He nodded and said, I understand, please send reinforcements. This communication jade plate consumed a great deal of spiritual perception. Luo Ting was unwilling to use too much of it as it would affect his escape. At the moment, he did not speak anymore and withdrew his spiritual perception. Once again, he dashed forward like a stray dog. Like a fish that had escaped the net, he appeared to be in a sorry state. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.